During the community safety meeting on September 19 at Barrie City Hall, over 25 Barrie residents had the opportunity to voice their concerns. This meeting occurred more than 4 months after the council approved measures on May 17 aimed at addressing homelessness. However, these measures were sharply criticized by activists, community leaders, and those experiencing homelessness as a war on homeless rather than on homelessness itself. A majority of speakers at the meeting were highly critical of individuals experiencing homelessness and of the Busby Center, an organization supporting them. Several property owners leveled unsubstantiated claims against the Busby Center, and the council members allowed these statements without interruption. In a previous meeting, Councillor Sergio Morales, who also chaired this meeting, has interrupted community activist Michael Prowse for his critical views of the Barrie police. Many speakers advocated for police intervention to remove homeless individuals from downtown areas. The city already has a program designed to relocate homeless individuals under the guise of family reunification. Only a few speakers, mostly towards the end of the meeting, expressed support for people dealing with homelessness and mental health issues. They urged the city to increase efforts to build affordable housing, invest in warming centers, and work with the provincial government to establish safe consumption sites. One prominent community leader, Sarah Tilly of the Gilbert Center, was unable to speak despite having registered to do so. Use the timestamps in the description to navigate to the relevant sections of the video.
I will now call the Community Safety Reference Committee to order at 6:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This meeting is being held in person and electronically in accordance with the Municipal Act. Before I start the meeting, I just want to ask, so if you're in the rotunda and you're watching this, are there any speakers that are registered to speak that are not in council chambers? Council chambers is not the rotunda downstairs, which let's call it the lobby. It means you're here in the room, either standing or sitting. Obviously, I'm asking the wrong crowd, but if you are in the rotunda, okay, I got some laughs. If you're in the rotunda, I'm going to take a 60-second pause, not necessarily a recess, and please make your way down here. There does look to be still a number of seats available, but if we get enough speakers and there's not a seat available, please consider giving your seat. So we'll take a 60-second pause and we'll continue. Okay, perfect. There's one item on the agenda tonight, and that is the public meeting. 3 hours have been allocated for the purpose of this meeting. It will be adjourned at 9 p.m. To start the meeting, we will have a presentation by the CAO Michael Prowse regarding an update concerning the actions taken in response to the direct motion adopted by council related to addressing chronic homelessness in the city of Barrie. As the purpose of this public meeting is to provide the public an opportunity to give comments, members of committee and council members in attendance will be listening to the comments received from the public during the meeting, but will not be making comments or debating the matter. Members of council will have an opportunity to address any questions of clarification regarding the presentation. After any questions from members of council, I will invite the public to speak. As we have noted on the agenda when it was published, pre-registration was encouraged and a number of people have pre-registered to speak. Individuals will be invited to speak in the order that their requests were received by legislative services. And then it gets into a specific about some of the rules of engagement tonight. But before we do that, I kind of want to add a human touch to tonight. And I wrote some notes here. For those of you that know me well, I don't usually write ahead of time, but I think the gravity and the importance of tonight calls for that. So in my role as city councillor, I get inquiries from constituents. I'm not Ward 2. It's a suburb. It doesn't even have close to the issues that downtown in this area gets. But when a constituent shares an experience, I will often also share a similar experience to show them that I'm actively listening. I don't do this to convey that my experience is more important than theirs or to dismiss their experience, but I do it to empathize with them. That's what I hope tonight is. Tonight is about listening and sharing our respective stories and experiences. It doesn't make one person's story more important than the other, and it doesn't invalidate the other person's experience either. We all have different experiences, and that's okay. Again, there are some experiences that I'm sure people will share tonight that that we can only imagine. We could only imagine, and we don't even want to comprehend of what they're going through. So tonight, my intent is that it becomes a respectful forum to share everybody's experiences and an opportunity for the public to have people at City Hall hear your experiences and not a back and forth, not a combative, and not demeaning each other. So for the purposes of speaking, a maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for each speaker. No slides presentations will be permitted to be displayed in order to ensure that the time limit of 5 minutes is adhered to. Documents submitted at the meeting will be scanned and circulated to members of council after the meeting. I'm going to provide some clarity on that as well. It's not intended, not allowing PowerPoints, it's not intended to limit you sharing your experience or your perspective. Please email them to us, email them to clerks, go through the appropriate channels. We will get them. You will have them on record and we will be able to have the information, but we just want to make sure that everybody gets heard and the efficiency of time is not having PowerPoints. But if you submit those to us on the record, we will get them. Once all pre-registered speakers have had an opportunity to speak, I will open up the floor to anyone who did not pre-register and wishes to speak. If you have not yet registered and wish to speak virtually, please email city clerks at barrie.ca or call 705-797-5353 and staff will send you the information required to participate. If time becomes a challenge, members of the public will be requested to only speak to items that have not already been addressed in order to provide everyone on the speakers list with an opportunity to speak. As is the case in a Planning Act public meeting, staff will not be responding to questions from the public directly. So, Mr. Prowse, the paper says to call you up, but you are already ready to go. So the floor is yours for your presentation.
Thank you, Chair Morales. In anticipation of you calling me up, I took my position to expedite things. And in the spirit of 5 minutes for members of council and committee, I will be brief with my presentation. Chair Morales, as you know, part of council's direction on May 17th included that a public meeting be held to garner feedback from the public on some of the measures that council had directed at that time. And that, as you have correctly pointed out, is what we are here for this evening. Which means I'm just a couple minutes at the beginning of it, and then we've allocated a lot of time to hear from the public on their thoughts, concerns, and ideas. But I think for context, Carl, can I get the first slide? Try to remember to get you to move it. Thank you. For context, it's important that everybody understands the city's role and our limitations, as we actually do not directly provide any social services. And I know for many people who are not familiar with the situation, that's challenging to get your mind around. We actually provide and procure services through our partners at the County of Simcoe, who are actually designated as the service manager for social services in this area. So as such, the City of Barrie does not have any social service staff. We do not have any expertise in homelessness prevention services, and we do not have specific training. We rely on our partners at the county who support us in those ventures throughout the community. Next slide, Carl. On May 17th, 2023, Council adopted a resolution to address chronic homelessness in the City of Barrie. This resolution included several actions that the Chief Administrative Officer was to consider or utilize. Next slide. For example, Council directed that we request additional financial support for the Rapid Access Addiction Medicine Clinic. And as a result of that, a letter was sent by Mayor Nuttall to Minister Tobolo requesting additional provincial funding. Members of council and the mayor then followed up with an in-person meeting with Minister Tobolo at the Association of Municipalities of Ontario conference, where we discussed the challenges the City of Barrie is having, and the minister actually requested to come to Barrie in the fall, and he's hoping to participate with the community partners in a roundtable discussion, which I'm assuming at some point would be probably facilitated by Mayor Nuttall and his office once dates can be arranged with Minister Tobolo. Next slide. Council also directed financial support for Family Reunification Fund to pay for transportation costs and help reunite individuals with families or support groups, as well as the creation of a pilot shuttle to better service individuals released from the Central North Correctional Center. This summer, the John Howard and Elizabeth Fry requested and received $10,000 each to support the family reunification work that they're doing for individuals not covered under Ontario Works. This in September, just a couple of weeks ago, a 6-month shuttle pilot in collaboration with the Ministry of the Solicitor General was launched by the City of Barrie to help address the prisoner transfers from the CNCC to the City of Barrie and surrounding areas. Next slide, please. Council also directed as part of their motion the approval of funding for a cooling and warming center for at-risk individuals and the provision of daily meal programs that are currently being offered on public lands and in public parks over multiple years. The County of Simcoe and the City of Barrie partnered to provide funding to operate the first cooling center in Barrie. The Gilbert Center was awarded the contract for the operation of a seasonal cooling center for unhoused residents from July to mid-September 2023. The county has advised it is engaged with partners to secure an operator of the 20 Rose Street modular units as a temporary shelter during winter, and is securing an agreement for additional warming center services in Barrie, both funded through a partnership between the city and the County of Simcoe. Next slide. The city will also be funding the Salvation Army to acknowledge the lunch program that they ran during the entirety of the COVID pandemic, and to assist with their fall funding campaign. As well, an allocation of the funds has been identified as part of the direct motion and will be provided to the County of Simcoe's Community Investment Fund to support local food security programs. Next slide. The motion of council in May included a request for permanent funding from the province of Ontario and the County of Simcoe for the County of Simcoe's mobile outreach pilot program that's operating currently in downtown Barrie. Pending the completion of the pilot in September of this year, the County of Simcoe and the City of Barrie will meet to determine the successful measures of the pilot, and if deemed successful, a request will be made to make that funding permanent. Next slide, please. As part of the May motion, council directed changes to the city's bylaw related to distribution of tents, tarps, food, and grocery products in public spaces, and reducing the time required to address camping and storage of goods in parks and public spaces. Those bylaws were subsequently referred back to staff to modernize the language by council. Currently, those bylaws are being reviewed in context of other municipalities, bylaws, and the language utilized there. Next slide, please, Carl. As part of council's direction, the city was to place signs on city off-ramps to discourage panhandling or financial support thereof, and encouraging donations instead to local service agencies. An education campaign will be launched in late September to encourage residents and out-of-towners to give money to organizations and charities instead of panhandlers. Next slide, please, Carl. In addition to all the work done in May with council's direction, as part of their housing affordability strategy, City Council pledged a commitment to the province to approve 23,000 homes to meet the provincial housing target. 17,000 of those units have already been approved by the City of Barrie. In addition, City Council at their August 16, 2023 meeting identified several parcels of city-owned land for possible sale. This additional land supply could help create additional housing to help address the housing crisis in Barrie, generating potentially as many 3,000 additional units across the city. Next slide, please. Chair Morales, members of council and committee, that is my presentation. I'd be happy to take questions of clarification.
Thank you, CAO Prowse. Before we begin, I just want to ask a question of IT clerks, basically anyone who can answer. Do we know if there's people watching online right now? And by the way, just to double down on the importance of this meeting, I had residents as late as 5:40 p.m. in Ward 9 messaging me, didn't even know this meeting was going on, but had similar opinions about what we're discussing. So I'm curious if anyone's watching to the clerk's staff. Did they see Mr. Prowse's presentation while he was speaking, or did they just see Mr. Prowse? Presentation? Okay, perfect. Okay, that's the good outcome. Otherwise,
Denied of my charm and good looks.
So otherwise I was going to say you can email and ask for the presentation, but perfect. Okay, so I will open up to the members of the committee first. So for members of the public, I'm not picking and choosing counselors. There's certain members of council that are on this committee. There's many committees that we have to be a part of. So the way I've kind of done it, there's no rhyme and reason to it, but we start with members of the committee, then we go to non-members of the committee, and then people usually get an idea after hearing someone speak, and we'll go back to it. So members of committee, any questions or comments? Councillor Corser.
Through you, Chair, Mr. Morales. I just have a few questions about slide 8 of your presentation. Is this pilot program referring to the One Community Solutions?
Yes, Councillor Corser, that's correct.
Yes, okay. Can you give me a better idea of what the pilot project's mandate is?
Sure, I'd be happy to turn that over to the general manager of, I'm going to get it wrong, I'm sorry, Community Social Services. I'm
Got it.
close.
That's good. Yeah. Good afternoon. Through the chair, thank you, Councillor, for the question. So there's probably one small slight correction in the presentation. It's not an outreach team. It's more of a community engagement based approach to community safety. So it's I like to call it a community engagement team. So there's a short, medium, and long-term outcome. So I'll kind of walk you through the primary goal. Short term, we wanted to learn and have that one community solutions learn and understand the overall need for the community, specifically with those experiencing homelessness. And that was to run from the end of May to the end of August. So I believe that outcome was achieved. And we're reviewing their report on the pilot on how they got to learn and understand the needs of the community. Medium term is about connectivity of clients. And this is the idea of making sure that referrals are happening to all of our system of care. And referrals are happening to when I say system of care, it's not just the homelessness services that we provide and the outreach services, but it's also the health-based services that we've partnered with our surrounding healthcare providers. And then long-term goal, and I would say for medium and long, we're not there yet. You can accomplish those goals in 3 months. The long-term goals are to end chronic homelessness. And, I've shared this over and over again. This is the mantra of us as a service manager, is we want to see those experiencing homelessness that exceed 180 days through 1 calendar year or multiple experiences homelessness over multiple years come down. And I think having as many agencies supporting that outcome is what we're looking to do. So those are kind of the 3 levels of goals.
Okay, just a couple of follow-up questions really quick, being mindful of the time. I don't want to take away from anyone. What is the success measured? I want to say KPI, but it's jargon. Is there any specific measurables that will say that this pilot project is successful or not to be funded, or to ask for that funding?
Through the chair, yeah, I think the answer is yes. There's I don't like using key performance indicators with social impacts. I think it's very hard to quantify. I would say qualitatively, we'll have measures on how many meaningful relationships are developed through the program for those experiencing homelessness, for the broader community, and how the level of safety and well-being is perceived by both those experiencing homelessness and those in the broader community. I think quantitatively, I'd like to study the number of interactions, the number of referrals, who the referrals went to, and what outcomes for the client occurred through that referral. So those are things that we can quantify and count and have been tracked throughout the summer and will be part of that evaluation report. And then part of the safety and well-being approach is just doing a few things like addressing some of the discarded biohazardous materials that happen from time to time. Just raw counts of how much is being, collected and disposed of, where, so as to develop geographic based hotspots to understand where high usage or high service needs are required. So that helps us map out and understand the community from a geographic perspective as well. So that's something else that can be quantified as well.
If I may, one more follow-up question. So basically, my understanding that there will be touch points with the team to people who are unhoused, and then that person that has been connected with, they'll trace their path and see where they end up at going through the system to see if it's successful or not. Is that the idea?
Through the chair, yes, I think that's the idea. It's relationship driven and relationship based, relationships with other providers within and outside of the system of care, with the general public and with the clients and residents they're engaging. So I would see that, again, I want to caution that comes over time, as relationships are based on trust, and trust takes a lot of time to earn. So yeah, but certainly that's the goal.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coruscant. Any other member of committee have any questions, comments? Mayor Nutt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to maybe pick up where Councillor Corser left off there in terms of KPIs. CEO Prowse, in the future, will we be able to get some measurables on the dollars that have been invested, in the sense that, and I'll use the family reunification because we have had a conversation with them where they've said they've been able to use the dollars to help, saying, okay, we've invested this many dollars, it's equated to this many people getting into support programs wherever that may be. Is there a possibility that we can bring those measurables in the future to the Community Safety Committee to show not just the dollars spent, but also the ROI on those dollars spent?
Through you, Chair Morales, to Mayor Nuttall, absolutely, it is part of the agreement with the two organizations you mentioned. Part of that MOU of the transfer of money includes them reporting back on how the money is used. We would imagine as we get through the first 9 months or a year of this, various programs and initiatives, we'll have a myriad of reporting for council to see levels of effectiveness. Some are pilots, so we may choose not to continue them on. That will be council's direction, but we expect to be able to present some data to you to help inform your decision.
Thank you. The other question I have is in terms of the winter coming and the warming center. Right now, I think we've seen that there's warming centers being set up in Orillia and Bradford, or maybe it was Orillia and Collingwood. There's two places in Simcoe County. We don't have one yet for the City of Barrie. Could you elaborate on that, or could Mina perhaps elaborate on that so that we as a community understand the why behind that, because there have been dollars, I think, also offered to support that.
Absolutely, and as was the county's RFP. I think I'll turn it over to Mina if you're okay with that.
Sure. Through the chair, thank you, Mayor Nuttall, for the question. Yeah, so hopefully we'll have some details on who we're engaging in the next few days. We did do a call for proposals. Unfortunately, we didn't receive a qualifying call in general. We did receive some calls for daytime. It was the nighttime that we didn't have a proposal put forward. Nevertheless, we are going to engage and ensure that there is daytime warming offered and overnight warming. We have also kind of identified our Rose Street modular overflow as a location to do both of those things. So hopefully once we finalize the agreements, we'll be able to announce that. And just to clarify, this is just one part of our winter response. We'll be coming to County Council on the 10th of October with the winter strategy, which will include not only the warming center locations across the county, but as well as some other alternative space options that we're using, and hopefully some mobile response options as well. So we'll have a comprehensive strategy before the winter, and everything should be in place by October 15th to help us tackle this winter.
Thank you. And my final question would be to the CAO, and you and I haven't discussed this, but I think it's an important question. The $825,000 per year that's been set aside, is that sufficient from council at this point to meet the requirements set out in the motion in May?
Through you, Chair Morales, to Mayor Nuttall, I always appreciate it when you dangle the fact that there might be additional money. But I would say we're very early in the process. So you can see from the report I provided to council that actual dollars spent have not been significant as of yet. However, we've just launched the shuttle. There's a number of other measures we're putting in place. So we'll continue to calculate and recalculate those amounts. We did create a small buffer when we did the estimated costs. And Mayor Nuttall, as you know, we have already been approached by two organizations just over the summer who had approached us about programs that they thought they could offer. One was, I think, less attractive to the city because it was a very large program. The other one, I think, we felt probably could be a nice fit in with the shuttle program. However, we hadn't anticipated that cost. So we're going to stay close to that issue. And as we get a little bit more mature in this process, we may re-engage with that group and see whether we can continue to further improve the processes.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Any other questions or comments from members of committee? Members of non-committee, questions or comments? Councillor Kunkel, and then after Councillor Hamilton.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Morales. I'll start with a comment. I actually want to appreciate the arrangement to have representatives from Simcoe County here. I think it's helpful, especially in the presentation by yourself, CEO Prowse, is to clearly identify that we're not a service manager. And so I think, and knowing that Mr. Fayez Bagat did come to City Council a while ago around that 10-point plan, there's quite a comprehensive strategy on many aspects that I find are quite hopeful. And it's helpful to not have siloed or singular conversations just about what we're doing, but also to be able to do that in the context of our relationship with the county. So my comment would be hopefully that as those reports come back around how things proceed, it would be great if, while I know it's always taxing for one more meeting in the evening, to have that joint delivery or partnership around updates, because I think it's of benefit. Well, not all of us around county council, and I'm not sure how they're displaying some of the human services agendas publicly. It would be great to understand where some of the things that we've presented on, that we've committed dollars to. I know in the circulation list and others have commented, like the BIA, around pilots that are more directly funded through the county, like the downtown supports. And I've heard a lot of positive comments from others and businesses and members of the public. So it'd be great to understand how those pilots that wouldn't necessarily be things that we are in scope of this, but do, I think, support some of the awareness around changes happening around a broader comprehensive approach. I think it ties to the presentation, so I don't think I'm off the mark by asking a question, and that is, I've heard from members of the public in different agencies around the scope of our commitment, and what you've brought back, CEO Prowse, is about how we are measuring success on this and progress. And so while this is kind of a point in time report back, do we have any other timelines that are helpful for members of the public to know, in addition to what you talked about, which is potential roundtable with Minister Tabolo in the fall, other updates, a communication strategy on giving to charities in September? But is there a next step that we would be timing through the remainder of this year into next year about when those dollars really are aiming to be spent, and or any roundtables around having members of the public co-design? So as we go out for things like the communication strategy, are there opportunities to roundtable further as different pieces move forward with different opportunities? Or is this really something that moves through staff? So could you share a little bit more about how members of the public or agencies will or will not continue to be engaged as we proceed through kind of next steps going forward?
Sure. Let me take a stab at that, Councillor Kunkel. I think, I mean, my overarching theme would be, we don't provide the services. So we need to recognize that. And the reason I'm leading up this project is because we don't have anybody else to lead up this project. So it's important that the public understand our resources are beyond finite. It's important that people recognize we have a great relationship with the county. We meet with them regularly. We rely on them extensively, but it doesn't stop there. Over the summer, since council passed this resolution, the senior leadership team in the city, and either with the county or separately, have met with a number of service organizations to better understand the work that they are doing. And is there an opportunity inside the scope and envelope of the funding and direction council has provided us? So that is ongoing. But I think it's fair to say that council's direction was fairly clear and crisp. And so if it doesn't fit in that envelope, then it's not something the city has the resources to entertain. So as long as it's in that envelope, those dialogues will continue, and we look forward to it.
Thank you, CEO Prowse, and I appreciate the clarity and the aim of kind of looking at managing expectations out and after tonight, and then next steps. And so if I may redirect then the question to Mr. Fayez Bagat, is there anything at this time that would be of benefit for the public to know about how to continue to keep apprised of next steps? Is it kind of watching and tuning into certain committees of county council, or is there anything that would be coming back as more of a public communication as you move forward?
Through the chair, thank you for the question, Councillor. Yes, I think all county meetings are open to the public and they're broadcasted live over I think it's our YouTube county station. So there's that way. Certainly you're welcome to attend in person. I'll make an effort and a commitment to come back and share maybe after our winter response is shared with county council, to come here and share it at the next scheduled council or committee meeting that's available that I can get on the agenda. And you know, I would point towards the 10-point plan. I did present it here at City Council, I believe sometime in June. I think it was June 18th, if I recall. I would urge everyone to review that presentation, as that's a clear roadmap to our intent on how we're taking on our homelessness issues and services. And I think that plan is a pretty comprehensive, you know, thought out approach that hopefully will show some of those outcomes, and we plan on reporting back on how we're doing. So
Thank you. And I appreciate that and want to compliment, I think, what you've seen to date. I have more information than general public, but I believe even your program with Redwood, where you actually as a metric have successfully housed, I think, up to 14 individuals. And so I think when we talk about our metrics too, how that helps hand in hand with your overall strategy. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you, Councillor Congo. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, I'll try to be brief because I think the intent of tonight is to hear from the public. So I'll try to get through my questions quickly. I do want to say thank you, because I think from May, staff has done a ton of work, and we're building some really strong partnerships. And I think this is a really positive step. So I do commend staff for the work that's been done in a short time. The presentation was great. The memo alongside it, I noticed in terms of the advocacy to Minister Tobolo for the additional funding for the RAM clinic, it says complete. And I know we've talked about a roundtable. Have we extended the formal invite to Minister Topolo, given that we've just, you know, it's sort of the iron's hot. We just saw him at EMO conference. Are we doing that and formally extending an invite to have him come and do a roundtable or consultations with the public? Is that in motion?
Through you, Chair Morales, to Councillor Hamilton, I believe the ball was actually in the minister's court, but I know the mayor will be following up with them on that offer.
Okay, so maybe I'll say we put that in progress and not complete, because we haven't secured any funding yet. So just a small point there. The shuttle service that you mentioned in terms of the prisoner transfer, I know it's a 6-month pilot, assuming that we would probably like to see this progress to a permanent solution. Can you elaborate, whether it's tonight or maybe in follow-up, the data that we'll be tracking so that we will know that, yes, this is a success, and then we can use that data to leverage and continue to advocate for this to become a permanent process, as opposed to a 6-month pilot? So
Sure.
specific data?
Through you, Chair Morales, to Councillor Hamilton. I mean, what I can offer is, because of privacy restrictions, we get very limited data. So we're going to be, as we are with our transit system, more about ridership, who's riding and where are they going. And I think that information will help inform some of council's decisions. And we expect to pull that as part of the closure of the pilot.
Perfect. Okay. A couple of more here. Just again, it was unfortunate. I think the RFP for the warming center was unsuccessful. Again, no one's fault on that. And I'm happy to hear tonight that you do have a backup strategy. I'm a bit concerned just with timelines. We know it turns cold quickly here. Is there a target date that we're hoping to have something in operation so that we're not sort of behind the ball when winter hits? Maybe that question's obviously directed to Mina.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor, for the question. Yes, October 15th is our date of launching our winter response, which will include, hopefully, the daytime warming will be in place by then, and overnight shelter programming overflow will also be in place by then. I'd also say that, you know, if something happens, knock on wood, earlier than that, we'd certainly activate a part of our strategy, which is new, and something we haven't done before is activating alternative spaces across the shelter system, to as well as all the warming spaces. So I think we're ready. I'm pretty confident, as long as the agreements get signed and nothing changes in the next few days, we should be ready to go.
Great. Thank you. I'm happy to hear. I think we've got a bit more of a proactive approach this year. So I think that will be greatly appreciated by the community. Back to CAO Prowse. I know you made a couple comments here just in terms of changes to the city's bylaws, and that staff is looking at modernizing language. Again, do we have a timeline of when council could see these bylaws come back with the updated language?
Council's direction was for the bylaws to be changed to effectively prohibit organizations from distributing food, camping supplies, etc. It's my expectation council will have that back probably before the end of this calendar year as we work through comparisons to some other municipalities to make sure that we are in similar step.
And just further on that, in terms of number 3 in the memo was about reducing the time required to address camping in parks. And you mentioned that the protocols and practices have been modified. Can you just elaborate a little bit on how they've been modified, if you have that, or?
I'm going to generalize and then Ms. McAlpine is going to glare at me because I'm
Yeah.
going to get it right. So I'll look to turn it over to her, but I believe the timeline was approximately 72 hours for us to fully react to a complaint on a camper, I guess, in a park. I think we've now shortened that down to 48 hours. Dawn, can you nod or tell me I'm right or wrong? I'm probably nowhere close. I should just turn it over to her.
Through Councillor Morales as the chair to Councillor Hamilton, each circumstance is quite unique. And we advise the service partners, the county, and the police when we receive a complaint. Depending on the nature of the situation, it may take a longer period of time to activate the number of people that are involved, whether or not they are able to access housing that meets their needs, which is a challenge. So that the timeline varies significantly depending on where in the community and other hazards that may be present for both the individuals who are living unhoused as well as others in the community.
Okay, thank you. I think that's probably fair and a valid approach that every circumstance will probably be dealt with uniquely. But thanks for that update. It helps my understanding of that. 2 more questions here, if I may, Chair, and then I'll turn it over. I'm going to be frank on this one, and I hate singling out any service provider, but I know many of us have received concerns about the Busby downtown and some of the behaviors that are associated with that. I know I've got emails today from residents and Councillor Nixon, I'm sure you've got way more than I do because I'm in Ward 10, but I think oftentimes we all get hit with some of these issues. I'm just wondering from the county's perspective, have we had a conversation in terms of what accountabilities are in place and oversight from a managed perspective to ensure that the social services that you guys are funding are being held to account and are operating in a safe manner?
Through the chair. Yes, I think just a couple of things I'd like to make maybe a statement and then answer the question. I think our agencies are doing a fantastic job delivering the services. It is the hardest sector outside of maybe police and health, and they're probably all tied, to be honest with you, because they probably serve all the same clients. I think the work is incredibly hard. Staffing and labor is incredibly challenging. And we heard that loud and clear when we did our review of the whole system last summer. And luckily and thankfully through the provincial support, we were able to increase our funding almost by 100%, like 88% to be accurate. We took that money and invested in exactly what our agencies said they needed. So in terms of addressing their labor shortages, their equity in pay, overall supply and anything and everything that they required, we asked them to put it down in a budget. And we tried to meet every request. The report that's going to County Council in the second part of October will itemize how we funded and how we used those funds. To summarize it, some agencies received over 300% increase in budget, and some of them received on average in total about 150%. So with that comes a level of responsibility, not only to, and we're not asking them to do more, we're just asking them to do it the best they can, which is something they were unable to do prior to that funding increase. Secondarily, it is also saying to them that with our data strategy, which is something also we're launching in October, we will have an open data set for everybody to see what's happening the night before in every shelter and be able to map it out and see if we're how we're serving and supporting those who need the services the most. So that being said, I think it puts a level of accountability on all of us to make sure that every dollar is invested in the places where clients need the most. And certainly we've met with every board of directors and every executive director of every agency before we funded to walk them through kind of that level of expectation and accountability that we're putting on ourselves and our system. It is a system, it's a community-based system, and we rely on our community providers because it's 100% offered through them. But we certainly want to make sure that those investments are done wisely and effectively and efficiently. So the short answer is yes. The long answer is a constant access and communication point that staff have on a daily basis with those providers to make sure that they're well supported and that they're delivering the services as intended.
Thank you for that. And again, I didn't make that comment to penalize or, point fingers at anybody. I think to your point, it is making sure that they've got the support in place to provide the services that they're wanting to provide. But also from a resident perspective, we have to ensure that those are being provided in a safe manner and that the accountability mechanisms are in place as well to oversee that. So thank you. And I look forward to the report in October. Last question here is just in terms of what was missing for me in the presentation and the memo is just the role of Barrie Police Services. And again, I think, you've made loud and clear a lot of partnerships that we're establishing because as I've mentioned, back in May, if we really are to tackle the root causes of homelessness, everyone plays a part in this. And I do think that Barrie Police Services also play a part. And before I get pounced on, I'm not talking about criminalizing poverty or criminalizing homelessness, but I do think they have a role to play. And I know there's been previous pilots in terms of when an officer would partner with RVH, a nurse, or a community mental health outreach worker. And I'm just wondering if you can comment a little bit more in terms of how Barrie Police have been involved to date. And I know we're going to hear stories tonight, but just, this to me is a significant issue. I went to a children's event the other weekend put on by Kiwanis downtown at Meridian Square, and it was fenced off. And as my kids and I were leaving, there was a group of a dozen shooting up, leaning against the fence. This was a kids event. These are the behaviors that we can't have happen in our city core any longer. So again, I know it's going to take involvement of multiple social services, addictions, mental health, but I do think there's a role that the Barrie Police have to play to ensure that these aren't the behaviors that our kids are witnessing as we're trying to enjoy an afternoon downtown Barrie.
Through Chair Morales to Councillor Hamilton. Excuse me. Thank you for the question. I would remind members of council that, Barrie Police is autonomous. They don't report into the city. We do have 2 members of council sitting on their board, and they may have some insights into the additional programs the police are doing. I do know that we meet with the police regularly, both on social service issues, but on general citywide issues. And this is always top of mind. And I can say from the top of my head that the police did launch a new pilot. I think they have 2 officers regularly patrolling the downtown. They do, I believe, have the program you described with the mental health worker, or are planning to relaunch that program if it isn't running concurrently. But perhaps Mayor Nuttall or Deputy Mayor Thompson have additional insights.
And I don't need to put anybody on the spot. Maybe I can ask if you have some answers. It's great. Otherwise, I would ask for maybe a report back later to give us an update in terms of the success that the police have been having with some of their pilot and outreach programs.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. I see a quick hand from Mayor Nuttall, so I'll let you answer this one if you wish.
Sure. Thank you. CEO Prowse is correct. In terms of this spring, going to the summer, there was 2 officers deployed who are consistently downtown. I believe that the chief and his team are looking at an expansion to that program. And the other piece I think that should be noted is I signed a letter to the province asking for some funding about 3 or 4 weeks ago that was in relation to something like Cahoots, where there's health and mental health professionals responding to calls that are likely deemed to be of that nature, versus just having a police officer show up. And certainly there needs to be a close collaboration and cooperation between all of those services. But we're looking to try to go outside of the box on this to make sure we have the right professionals responding to the right calls.
Thank you, and appreciate that. I know that's not directly in the city purview, but I do think it's important as we're talking about our key stakeholders and partnerships that we're building. And I think it's probably helpful for people in the audience too, just to know the status of some of those relationships. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. Any other non-members of committee have any questions or comments? Nope. Oh, Councillor Nixon, go ahead.
Through you, Chair Morales, to CAO Prowse. With regards to the initiative of signs to encourage citizens to donate funds directly to services, as opposed to giving directly to a panhandler, are you aware, would there be any way after the fact, whether it's every 30 days or whatever to find out if that indeed is working and to know if there indeed were how much additional funds were going directly to services. It's great. Money does go to services, but if people are going to stop giving to both, then it's really not, we're not any further ahead. But is there a way to monitor that, or would that be up to the services to report that?
Through you, Chair Morales, to Councillor Nixon. Thank you for the question. I think the challenge in that is the city has opted to utilize a well-known organization that works with charitable organizations to distribute money, does it online, does it very efficiently and effective, instead of attempting to own the process ourselves, which certainly was an option, but given privacy concerns and the limited ability to administer the program, we felt, a victory in this category is less panhandlers, to be blunt. That was council's direction. And less people panhandling on the street probably means that there's less money flowing around for the panhandlers, and ideally more money for charity. So in discussions with Ms. James Reed on the communications and IT side, we will probably reach out to that organization or the organizations and see if there's some way we can get some reporting back. I'm not optimistic on how effective it's going to be honest with you, that being the reporting. But our goal is to disincentivize panhandling, which was council's direction, and we believe this program will aid in that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. Any other questions? No? Okay, so I will provide some comments here. And then usually, just for members of the public, usually it's the,
I'm just making sure I was okay to sit down, Councillor.
Yeah, you can sit down.
Thank you.
Usually just for people who are not familiar with the procedures, usually the chair kind of wraps up the comments and then we move on to the next section, which would be members of the public. But this is a very serious issue. And after I speak, I'm actually going to go to the mayor. I only represent one ward. He represents the whole city. So even though it's a little bit outside of the norm, if you let me get away with a bit of a procedural flexibility here, I'll let you kind of speak closing thoughts before the public. So I appreciate hearing from members of council. I'm going to go very fast because I'm looking at the time, but I did want to say something. I agree with Councillor Courser. There's a human aspect to KPIs that just saying an acronym and corporate doesn't capture. However, we can't change what we don't know, and we don't know what we don't measure. So I really appreciate, if we can maybe come up with a new term, the human KPI, the human outcome, but also having these KPIs into how effective the spending is. Because as I look around the room, and I'm not being presumptive of anyone's stance on this, I'm just seeing passionate people who are here at 7 p.m. In council chambers, listening to a bunch of politicians speak. So you're clearly passionate about something. So we clearly acknowledge that there's an issue. We have different perspectives on it. It's not a question of the why, it's a question of the how. So measuring KPIs, knowing what is effective, knowing what doesn't work, and knowing what we need to pivot and change is how we're going to get to a better outcome. Now, we may have different opinions on what that is, but here's where we are about being at City Hall, sharing your perspectives and influencing the policy that your City Hall decides to implement. With that, Mayor Nuttall, I'll pass it over to you. And then afterwards, I will go to the members of the public.
Thanks so much, Chair Morales. I guess my only comments for this evening would be this, that the goal from council and the city's perspective is to hear ideas and to hear opportunities to improve the situation on the ground. I think that if we're focused on solutions, even if we don't necessarily agree on all of the process to get there, but if we're focused on solutions, there should be a lot of ideas that come forward tonight that we can then look at and determine whether they fit, and in fact measure whether the ones we're working on fit and have worked, and therefore pivot in the right direction going forward. The other thing I think that all of you are going to hear tonight, and I'm just saying this based on the emails we've received, is that there's a balancing act that's going on in the emails that are coming into certainly into my office. I don't know about the rest of council, between the need to help individuals on the ground who are experiencing homelessness or addictions or mental health or all three, and also community safety. And I think you're going to hear that play out tonight. And I would just ask that everyone is respectful of each other, that way all of the information can be compiled by our public servants, provided back to City Council, and certainly provided back for the public to take in as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall, for that. And I'm only going to point this out. It's not single anyone out. Just so you know, the meeting is being recorded and you can access it later online. I just see a couple phones. I don't want anybody to accidentally drain their battery. You can continue to record it, not stopping you, but it will be on YouTube and you can play it back. You can hone in on a sentence. You can replay it. You can play it at 1.5 speed. So just know that that option is there. So at this point in the agenda, members of committee, we'll move on to deputations from the public. And as noted previously, there's a number of speakers that have registered to speak. So I will call the individuals in order of the order that they asked to be able to speak. 5 minutes, please, is the limit. You don't have to take all the 5 minutes. At 4:30, I will softly just say 30-second warning. Just know that that's coming. And at 5 minutes, it will be a hard cutoff for you to, so we can get to everybody. So with that said, when you approach the podium, please state your first and last name. You are not required to provide your address. That's a clarification. I believe planning meetings is a bit different. So we will start with Joan Kelso. And my apologies in advance to everybody if I get your name incorrectly. The time starts when you start speaking. So if you need to gather your notes at first, do that.
Thank you, Chair Morales and committee members. I'm here today to express my fear and concerns for the downtown Barrie area. I've been a resident of Barrie since 1989. I have lived and owned property since 1999 in the downtown core, when my husband and I acquired property on Mulcaster Street. We started out there with our young family sharing space with his office. We then acquired McDonald Street a few years later. It is a licensed rooming house. My office is at the corner of Victoria Street and Lakeshore Boulevard. I have spent the last 25 years of my life in and around downtown Barrie. I care about this city. Providing low-cost housing in the downtown core is not new to us. Our family, including our children, have 3 different licensed rooming houses throughout the downtown. We care about our tenants and their right to live safely and peaceably. We have house rules: no drugs, loitering, or violence. The city and police should also be enforcing these rules in the downtown core. The challenge with the unhoused is the unruly unhoused. In order to create the lowest barriers to access for the unhoused, we are turning a blind eye to those unlawful individuals who display no common decency or respect for the surroundings and the community. What once was a pleasant place to live and work, it is no longer. Everything changed for us and our neighbors when the Busby Street Center relocated to our neighborhood in 2014. We now have open drug use on the lawn of the courthouse, where our kids used to slide down on their sleds in the wintertime. I've watched people go back and forth from the methadone clinic, selling their drugs to people on the street and then go back for more. At the plaza where my office is located, we have used needles, bricks being thrown at the windows, people sleeping in the breezeway, solicitation on the property. New residents of a downtown condo are afraid to move in because they are afraid to walk downtown. New residents witnessing an overdose from the balcony. Longtime patrons of the running room now afraid to walk to their cars at night. There was an overdose on the front lawn of my husband's office not 2 weeks ago at 8 o'clock in the morning. This is witnessed by one of his employees. Let me tell you how traumatizing that was for her. We know that there are things going on like defecation on people's lawns. City Council needs to take action to help all the people of Barrie. Our tenants at McDonald Street are afraid. Some of them have lived there for 15 or more years. The loitering at the corner on the boulevard and their lawn is out of control. Our property at Mulcaster Street has been broken into multiple times. The last time, one of the employees found someone sleeping on my husband's couch in his office. This was when she came into work alone. And this was after he had violently kicked in the back door, as caught on the cameras. We have had to spend thousands to replace our doors with metal doors, install alarm systems and cameras. We pay significant property taxes as we experience the decrease in the value of these properties. Why did the city allow this type of organization to take up residence where clearly the land around it cannot house the patrons when outside? We need the City of Barrie and the police to take action to help us. We know homelessness is a nationwide problem. Timmins is looking at moving their shelter away from dense residential and commercial retail space. Huntsville has an OPP presence that keeps the downtown clear of loitering and drug use. The province of Alberta is taking a recovery first approach, as statistics indicate a significant portion of individuals experiencing homelessness are dealing with substance use challenges. A residential and day rehabilitation center in Barrie is needed. I have personal experience with this with one of my own children. Fortunately, we have a success story, and without rehabilitation, this would never have happened. You cannot provide benefits to one section of our population without considering the rights of the rest. Thank you.
30 seconds. Perfect. Thank you for your time, Mrs. Kells. The next speaker will be, give me 1 second here, everybody. Will be Bill Anderson. Are you in the rotunda, Bill Anderson? I'm going to wait 20 seconds. If you're in the rotunda, make your way up here. If not, we'll go on to the next speaker. If you know where their whereabouts, you can quickly let me know.
He was supposed to read a letter, and I have a copy of the letter here. Don't know where he is though.
Thank you. Just clerk's staff have indicated that the letter has been posted online and everybody has it, and we have it. So every comment will be captured. The next speaker on the list is Jason O'Neill. Please approach the podium. Time starts when you start speaking.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall, Chairman Morales, and committee members. My name is Jason O'Neill. My wife Jennifer and I are proud owners and operators of McDonald's restaurants. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the impact of the Dunlop Street McDonald's, the impact it has on our team members, our guests, and our business. We are a local family. We run a family restaurant. We pride ourselves in taking care of our team members, providing opportunities for employment in a safe and respectable workplace, delivering quality food and service to our guests. So what's the impact been to our business? I think it's important we discuss this. How's it impacted our team members, our guests, and what with the current environment and culture in the downtown? Just about every day we have an emergency phone call to the police, whether it's an assault on a team member from an unwanted guest or unwanted guests fighting in the dining room or fighting in the parking lot, open drug use on the property, or one of the many overdoses, which I won't get into, vandalism or damage in progress, very often ripping apart bathrooms, or people setting fire to the bathroom when using drugs and drugs getting out of control. You can only imagine the toll that this takes on our business, our team members, and our guests. Not to mention the capital expenditures to try and minimize the effects of this, which is incredibly significant. The impact on our people, our management team, and our retention is off the charts. Also very significant. The impact to its business, the business in itself, the sales are significant. The one thing that no one can get over is the unwanted guests who commit these unthinkable acts are taken away one day and they're often back in the same day or the next, and often without recourse. It's very hard to explain to someone who is assaulted or some of these acts that have happened as to what are we doing about it as an employer and how are we protecting them in our workplace. No one should wonder why people are avoiding downtown. I also have an office downtown right over Meridian Square, so I see all the same things that you see. My ask is that we take a significant holistic approach to protecting our team members, our guests, and the businesses in the core of our great city. We are open and happy to serve everyone. We will serve everyone, but my team's ask is that they're respectful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. You're allowed to clap. Like, yeah, you're allowed to clap. Sorry, like it's not awkward. We're not in the doctor's waiting room. That's being respectful. It's not booze, so that's fine. Mr. Lance Chilton, please come up to speak. You have 5 minutes. Time starts when you start speaking.
As well, John. Hi there. My name is Lance Chilton. I've been a resident of Barrie since 1998, and I currently own a business here, and as well I'm a landlord in the city. First off, thanks to council, your worship, members of council, staff, Simcoe County staff as well, for being here and turning your attention to what I strongly believe is, if not the most serious problem facing this city and scores of cities across the continent. If it's not the biggest problem, it's the second or third, but it's up there. So, and I'm not going to belabor the point of the experiences that those of us who live and work in downtown and employ people downtown have had to endure because of the issues of homelessness and addiction and mental health problems. It's a broad spectrum of problems, and frankly, it's above our pay grade as a fairly small city. Those problems exist, so no need to flog that horse. What I would like to say with my short time is that we're all devoting a lot of time, energy, and resource to solving this broad spectrum of problems. And there are two main groups. There's the client group, the vulnerable and unhoused population who deserve all of the care that we can give them and more. And we can't give them too much. But then there's the other stakeholder group, which is the citizens of the city, who deserve to be able to live safely, feel secure coming and going from their places of work, to not encounter people sleeping or committing crimes on their property on a very regular basis. For my employees, it's been an issue leaving and coming to and from our building, which is a block from here that way. And we've had people camping on our property overnight. We have security cameras. We get to say, hello, wake up, please leave. We've had people break in, and the police attended promptly, and the person in question in this case thought he was home. Well, he wasn't, but he was safe and sound and warm, which was good. Those people need to be kept safe and sound and warm in whatever manner that we can. And we have to, and we are devoting a huge amount of resources and attention to that. But it is just as important for our broad quality of life as a society that the citizens of the city can feel safe and secure in their homes and on their properties and in their places of work. We have a Department of Finance. We have a Department of Libraries, buses, and everything else. I think we need a Department of Homelessness. I think the problem is that serious. I think that there are all kinds of various individuals and organizations and committees focusing on this problem. And I know that, as CAO Prowse pointed out, we're not managers, but I think the problem is big enough that we need to be. We need to have the problem is big enough now. And if you don't tackle it before it gets too big, then it gets out of hand. I was in Ottawa this weekend. It's out of hand there, like really out of hand. And unless we tackle it quickly through law enforcement and for caring for those vulnerable populations in a decisive and rapid fashion, we have stormy days ahead. I hope I'm wrong about that. And thanks for your time and attention.
Thank you, Mr. Chilton. Now, next will be Steve Rakalis. I believe you will be speaking virtually. So no, we are not going to see Rakalis. Okay. At all or not at all? Okay. Perfect. John Alous, please approach the podium. 5 minutes. I know your name. That's why I hesitated. I'm like, this shouldn't be an issue, but 5 minutes, your time starts when you start speaking.
Councillor Morales, committee members, thank you very much thanks in advance for putting up with what I'm about to talk about. Every time I talk to a resident these days or a business owner, all I hear about are problems and challenges that the downtown is facing. We can't let the challenges of today become the challenges of the future. We cannot focus on support for social services without an equal focus on the harm they attract by their presence. Thefts, shoplifting, vandalism, break-ins, threats, open drug use, loitering, and trespassing. This is daily lawlessness that has increased drastically since COVID ended and the homeless returned to use the downtown social services. I have to draw attention to the Busby Center shelter at 88 Mulcaster. The shelter is virtually surrounded by pre-existing residential uses near a park, a library, the courthouse, the Center for Grieving Children, and City Hall. It's within a short walking distance of schools, downtown retailers, offices, and the Barrie waterfront park system. The Busby Center strives to achieve noble purposes to assist the needy, but does so while openly ignoring the damage they have caused and the fear they have instilled in neighboring residents and businesses. In 2014, the Canadian Mental Health Association of Simcoe County bought 88 and 90 Mulcaster for $1.8 million. Last June, Busby requested $400,000 from the City of Barrie plus another $1.2 million from the county to pay for the post-COVID transition from the hotels back to 88 Mulcaster. The Busby has become a large social enterprise. This August, the Busby bought 88 and 90 Mulcaster from the CMHA for $4 million. Records show that they paid $1.2 million in cash and $2.8 million with a mortgage through Meridian Credit Union. If the Busby had so much cash in the bank, why did they need money from the city for the transition? Were any of the transition funds used for the purchase? Why was the property not sold to the public on MLS? All levels of government must be accountable for their spending. In turn, the social services who receive the funds must also be held accountable. The Busby Center took over a shelter program which had previously been run seasonally by 6 churches. Busby moved to one location without notice to, consultation with, or regard for neighbors in the downtown core. The neighbors complained to the city in 2019. Barrie City Council asked the CMHA and Busby to meet regularly with neighbors to address the nuisances and harm they were causing. 2 city councillors attended those meetings. The meetings ended in 2020 when COVID arrived. In 2021, I emailed the CMHA and Busby asking what their plans were to restart meetings for the construction of a fence and other mitigation strategies. I received no response. Last year, when we told the Busby of the break-ins to our property, the reply included, "The Busby Center has no authority over people who are participating in negative or criminal activities like the one that you have described. Police are your best line of authority." If that is the response, how does City Council propose to direct and fund police and security sufficient to address the rising crime? By enabling and allowing lawless behavior to grow, the city and county have contributed to the harm caused to downtown Barrie residents and businesses. They've effectively expropriated a portion of our property rights and caused injury. More importantly, present downtown social services conflict with the goal of ending homelessness. Housing intensification is needed to create affordable housing. Affordable housing is needed to reduce homelessness. The city has planned for residential intensification in and around the downtown core. Lawlessness may delay or deter residential intensification and therefore contribute to the homelessness. We're in a catch-22 situation. The city should create a task force to include affected residents, businesses, the county, shelter representatives, affordable housing advocates, and first responders to review the current plans and policies for dealing with
30-second warning.
Thank you. For dealing with both homelessness and lawlessness. The situation is urgent. We need to work together to reach a holistic solution that will bring the greatest amount of good and create the least amount of harm to all of the citizens of Barrie. Thank you.
Next speaker will be Craig Stevens. Please approach the podium. Time starts when you start speaking.
Good evening, Chair Prowse, Mayor Nuttall, and members of the committee. My name is Craig Stevens. I'm the Executive Director for the Downtown Barrie BIA. It's difficult for me to say this, but it's getting harder and harder to keep our heads up when we make our way through downtown. However, we are staying positive and we will continue to make the investments into our public realm because it's our local Main Street businesses at stake. The BIA, as an event facilitator, has now experienced at firsthand over 6 overdoses and counting during BIA family events in Meridian Place over the last few weeks. Even more overdoses and deaths in downtown alleys. We've even gotten to the point of contemplating canceling the events for the safety and well-being of our staff and attendees. This scenario, as we've heard already, can be recited by many downtown businesses, and I'm sure you'll hear further on into this evening. It's not a matter of making people aware of the situation. It's about coming together to find solutions together. There have been many new initiatives that have been implemented, and I'd like to list and cite these as I believe, and we believe the BIA board, they've been a success and should continue. The Barrie Police, 2 dedicated officers that have been mentioned already this evening, have worked, but need to be, as a pilot project, need to be funded, continued, and expanded further. The County of Simcoe, One Community Solutions. That program needs to be funded, ongoing, and expanded further. In fact, they were responsible on site for at least for 6 of those overdoses and potentially 2 lives saved. City of Barrie, 2 to 3 operation staffs that go around the downtown picking up the garbage that accumulates rapidly, needs to be continued and not a pilot program. As was mentioned earlier in the evening, the uniformed police officer appeared with RVH. While not downtown focused or dedicated, is focused, needs to be continued and expanded. The non-uniformed police officer paired with a mental health professional, while not downtown focused or dedicated, but focused, needs to be continued and expanded. The Barrie Police, with communicated instruction to monitor and route through the downtown when on shift, needs to be continued. And I will venture out to say that the prisoner release drop off that's been halted for those not living in this area in 6 months should be continued. The BIA has implemented the following additional event safety and security measures as a result now of those 6 overdoses within Meridian Place. In the essence of additional security personnel dedicated to Meridian Place and alleyways during public events. And these are as additional eyes to connect with first responders so that those get help. A public event email to all first responders when an event is happening with a request to inform staff on shift to be on alert. Again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I'd like to end and emphasize that the Downtown Barrie BI is in a position as a contributing partner to this community-wide challenge within the scope of the organization's mandate. We are here to help, and we are focused on achieving collaborative solutions. Thank you.
We will now hear from Jerry Jeffrey. Please approach the podium. You have 5 minutes. Time starts when you start speaking.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, and council members. My family has lived on Mulcaster Street and owned property on Mulcaster and Worsley Street for almost 70 years. We watched the old City Hall knocked down by a wrecking ball. We've seen a lot of changes in that time, but nothing like the last few years. It's become scary for us, for those who live there. We have tenants who have concerns. I've been personally accosted a couple of times and the police had to deal with it one time. We pick up lots of garbage. We have found needles in the lawn. One of my tenants is here tonight to talk more about that. But I was on a committee of Busby people and neighbors and local councillors, and we would meet once a month to discuss the issues as we saw them and look for solutions. Now, I remember a sandwich board that was out on the floor and they had the expectations for the Busby clients. One was be good neighbors. One was no drugs on the property. I see drugs all the time, right outside. I was told by a Busby person that if Busby clients were outside, there would be a Busby employee out there at the same time. I don't believe that. And I have, from what I've seen, from what I hear, I believe that the Busby Center is in over their heads. I don't think they know what to do. I don't think they can deal with the number of people in such a small space. And I think that's part of the problem. I have no problem with any individual. I believe we all should all be dealt with respect and kindness. But when it scares people, that concerns me. I watch citizens walk up Mulcaster Street and cross the road so they don't have to walk in front of the Busby Center. Thank you.
I'm just going to call to the members of the public. We're going to keep the decorum going that we've had. No matter whether you agree with the opinion or not, I'm cutting people off, no matter who they are. So I'm going to stick to the rules, and I just very respectfully ask the public to do the same. The next speaker will be Drew Decker. Please approach the podium. Time starts when you start speaking.
Good evening. I'm a local business owner on Bayfield Street. I'm also from a Dutch family, and over there they have a very interesting policy called gedogen, which is loosely translated means tolerance. Certain things are formally forbidden by the law, but the Dutch government abstains from bringing in criminal charges. And the gedogen policy is consideration of interests in which law enforcement, in many ways, the greater good needs to yield to an identifiable greater cause. It's been known for a long time. Dutch laws about drug decriminalization, other things are well known. Helsinki is embarking on a housing first policy, which is probably on track to eliminate homelessness by 2025. It's really interesting. Everyone's given a home, programming to get back on their feet, given money. It's fantastic. And Helsinki is safe. The economy is booming. And people living on the streets is not tolerated. The reason that this works is that gedogen tolerance has limits. Over the years, we've realized that excessive tolerance is not a virtue. A lack of boundaries, or at least a lack of willingness to stand for them, doesn't solve anything. And as the saying goes, if you won't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. If we continue to tolerate more, we're going to be on the receiving end of more of it. What you think is coming from a place of goodness is only exacerbating the problem. This well-meaning place we're coming from backfires tragically when we don't set limits. As much as the path of addiction and untreated mental health problems destroys the addicts and their families, enabling and tolerating the behavior when it eventually ends up in our streets, left to its own devices, will also necrotize our own community. We should stop doing things that make it worse. And we also need to realize that not everybody who's upset about homelessness and addiction is mean or should be labeled a NIMBY. They're not uncompassionate people. Most everyone wants troubled people dealt with humanely. But we are hearing of people defecating in the middle of intersections. Home invasions. Like my brother has a house on Peel Street where just last Thursday, there was a person walking up the street with a brick smashing all of the car windows from driveway to driveway. Yesterday, we had an assault rifle confiscated downtown. Like, when is enough going to be enough? What needs to happen for it to be enough? So this is not the Wild West. You know, as the public, we're not being mean, but we have equal right to live in a lawful city where there aren't two sets of laws. We should have a right to feel safe walking in our city without a threat of danger. That's a fundamental right that we in this community should have. And the law applies to everyone in the community equally. Tolerance needs to have limits and boundaries. If we keep adding Band-Aids and short-sighted policies and increase the capacity of the wrong types of service, we will only enable and exacerbate the problem. None of us in the room have answers. There aren't any easy solutions, but the status quo and only building more capacity is not going to solve the problem. We'll just add to the problem and keep adding more of the same, if we keep adding more of the same services. We're all here because we care, but we're also here because we're fed up. The one thing we have to do before we make things worse for ourselves is we need to set some boundaries in our tolerances and stick to them. If we fail to set a line, we will fail. We need to come up with a set of standards. We need a line in the sand of what the decorum is. It's time for a new approach. Thank you.
Jason Beatty, please approach the podium. Your time starts when you start speaking.
Thank you, Council. I've had the opportunity to spend like my entire life in the downtown core. And then I took a few years and I traveled around and I lived in 4 or 5 different places: Buffalo, New York, Los Angeles, the Philippines, Vancouver as well. And I've got to see things that work and things that don't. I've got to see that homelessness, poverty, drug use, it's not a Barrie problem. It's an international one. We see it everywhere. So I just wanted to take some time. I spent my time throughout the world. I came back, I married my wife, we moved back into Barrie. This is where we want to build roots. This is where we want to build a future. And yet I've seen the downtown core change. I read the city plan. This is something that I do because it's meaningful, it's impactful. So you read the city plan and you'd say, you want intensification, you want growth, you want prosperity, you want to bring businesses, because if we bring businesses and we give jobs, we generate tax dollars, and tax dollars provide services, and everything feeds each other. And so what I've seen is, and I've learned earlier tonight, is we've taken 6 churches and taken them to the Busby Center. We've seen that the growing concentration of drug use and homelessness in the downtown core, and I recognize that it's not just a local issue, but I've been disappointed to see that there's a complete lack of transparency and community involvement. The Busby Center continues to not inform the community and make decisions, such as the purchase of the building next to it. There was 0 community involvement. That recent planned expansion of the Busby Center blindsided the community, and it represents an irresponsible action. In the next few sentences, I will speak to the homelessness and drug use, and the relationship between the two needs to be recognized, as well as mental health. My words now are not to diminish the plight of those experiencing homelessness, but to recognize the obligation of council to the community members impacted by the open drug use and to the unsafe neighborhood that is being created. The Busby Center has made promises in the past, and they have not met them. Building a fence is just an example. This has not been done. They allow open drug use and the use of drugs on their property and city property. I hope that each of you drive by the Busby Center on the way home. I drove by it on the way in, and there was a gentleman doing drugs with drug paraphernalia on the curb outside the front door. There was a few more that were sleeping on cardboard boxes just outside the front door. On my way here tonight, I passed that individual. This does not make people feel safe. It demonstrates that the Busby Center cannot effectively manage their space and assist the population that they already are. To expand their operations is not fair to the people that they serve or the community that they operate in. The concentration of services in its singular location creates an unsafe environment for both the individuals using it and the community. Those without drug problems are being exposed daily, and the users that are being brought here and concentrated in a singular location also bring the crime and other things that come with it. Has the city calculated the total cost of the Busby Center? The cost on the community and security systems, the cost on businesses with partners, the businesses with partners not feeling safe. When you walk into the bank, they have full-time security now. When you walk into the library, there's full-time security. They offer wonderful programs, and yet Can you really feel like that a family is going to feel safe to walk in when you need to have a security agent standing at the front door? I see community safety members picking up needles and drug paraphernalia. This action is only an admission that there are needles and drug paraphernalia being left on the neighborhood streets. It worries me that when police walked into my wife's business and they told her, your doors should always be locked, that each member should be provided basically a rape whistle, that a panic button should be installed at the front desk. This is the request that the city is providing to
30-second warning plus
to its
3
city
seconds for the
members, to
interruption.
businesses that are trying to provide jobs. It's not fair. I've witnessed police interact with known individuals disrupting business at the bank. They walk in and say their name. I've seen individuals stealing from teenagers and throwing rocks at them from the Busby Center. We've had mail stolen, break-ins, verbal aggression, and trespassing. It's fine to have goals for growth and intensification within the city, but we need to build a city that's safe for everyone.
Thank you. Your time is up. So the next speaker on the list is Melissa Conte. Apologies on the pronunciation. Your time starts when you start speaking.
Good evening, Chair Morales, Mayor Nuttall, and committee members. My name is Melissa Conte. I'm speaking today based on my experiences as a young female lawyer working on Mulcaster Street and the experiences of our female staff members. 10 years ago, I came to Elucis Law as a summer student. When I completed banking and delivered documents to other law firms, I was always vigilant, but never left the office fearful of encountering individuals who would yell at me, chase me down the street, or attempt to grab my purse. Fast forward 10 years, and a typical walk by our staff members along Mulcaster Street and Collier Street to the banks includes sidestepping alcohol bottles and drug paraphernalia along the sidewalks, individuals approaching them and screaming at them in nonsensical language, or screaming profanities at them. Running away or walking quickly from such individuals is a daily occurrence for our staff, as they are continuously monitoring their surroundings. However, what is most concerning is that in the past few months, I have seen that there are now groups of individuals congregating together along the sidewalks with some on bikes, essentially blocking access along the sidewalks. I no longer feel comfortable driving along McDonald Street, as I have been forced to stop my vehicle for individuals unwilling to move from the middle of the roadway, for individuals sitting on the roadway, and individuals running across the roadway without any regard for approaching vehicles. Next Wednesday will mark 1 year from the date that one of our staff members encountered an intruder that viciously broke down our back door. For our office, this was the beginning of a marked increase in our feelings of uneasiness without even leaving the boundaries of our office. I have personally encountered an intruder in our back parking lot after work. There have been individuals attempting to open our car doors and the front door of the office, and I've had to redirect clients to separate doorways because of barefoot trespassers at the side of our building. And each and every day, we quickly lock our front door the moment our clients enter the office. Just a few weeks ago, I received a breathless phone call from one of our staff members early in the morning, stating that police, paramedics, and firefighters were at the front of our driveway reviving an individual that had overdosed. A review of our cameras revealed that 2 individuals had met up, sat on our front steps, smoked something, and almost instantly one of the individuals was on the ground struggling to breathe. I am tired of this. Meaningful change is necessary to protect Barrie residents and employees. Feelings of uneasiness merely opening your front door or exiting a vehicle and the persistent sounds of sirens should not be accepted as the new normal in the city of Barrie. I also have a statement from the owners of Donnelly's and the Dunlop Street Diner. The struggle over the last 3 years against the rapidly increasing excessive drug use in downtown Barrie is both embarrassing as business owners, but as citizens of the city. Daily, we have employees walk our properties to pick up needles and other drug tools. And daily, we have to deal with the results of these drug tools with individuals passing out, begging for money, harassing both residents of Barrie as well as tourists. So how, as small business owners, are we supposed to attract both our regular and first timers to visit our downtown core? It has been a fight that we have been losing for years. Why would anyone want to bring their families downtown for dinner only to experience the open drug use in every alley? Women must be walked to their cars only to find someone has broken in and made camp to get high in their car. These are true stories that have happened more than once. What would have happened had these girls not been with someone, not had someone with them to help remove these people? Too many close calls, too many overdoses. We need to create a safe space, a safe downtown for everyone. If we don't, people will stop coming and businesses will have no choice but to close. The downtown core is the heartbeat of any thriving city. It is imperative that we take drastic steps to make downtown safe and to
30-second warning.
Become a destination once again. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker will be Cheryl Russell. Please make your way to the podium. Before you start, Cheryl, I just want to, you can keep going. This is kind of just the collective one. Just for everybody, just clarification. I know I said it earlier because I have the notes, but I just want to reiterate, individuals are being invited to speak in the order that the requests were received by the legislative office. So not politicians, our wonderful staff. So this is the order that it was received. If anybody kind of has any questions as to that, but again, my job here is to be firm but fair to everybody. So everybody will be getting the quiet 30 seconds if you choose to go to your full time. With that, Cheryl, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Morales, Mayor Nuttall, councilors and all committee members. My name is Cheryl Russell. I am originally from Toronto and I have been living in Barrie for 16 years. My husband, myself, and our 2 children have enjoyed our family and work life here in Barrie. Coming from Toronto, we are very appreciative of Barrie's well-planned public spaces and accessibility to green space. Our family lives within walking distance of downtown and the waterfront. We enjoy Barrie's parks and waterfront trails. I am here tonight to ask council to continue to make planning decisions that benefit the entire community. Community issues need to be addressed while respecting and safeguarding the interests of businesses. Our downtown is a vibrant business community and we need it. I would like to share 2 anecdotes with you. Firstly, I love our public library. The Barrie Public Library offers numerous resources to our community. I joined the Barrie Public Library Monday Night Book Club 10 years ago. The library facilitated a means for me to connect with people in our community. Over these 10 years, loitering directly outside the main entrance has increasingly become an issue. Our book club members noted an increase in the number of security guards. Bathrooms are sometimes locked. Outdoor lighting was increased. Continuous classical music was playing, and we all started walking each other to our cars. During COVID, our book club stopped meeting in person, but after the restrictions were lifted, our group never met in person again. Some members feel safer via Zoom, and so we have continued meeting virtually. I am one of the few members who voted to return in person because I miss being out in my community and meeting with my fellow book clubbers. My second anecdote, I worked in healthcare for 15 years, the first 6 of which I worked in a methadone clinic. Front Street Medical Clinic is located in the rear section of the downtown dispensary at the corner of Front and Mississauga Streets in Orillia. During my second year of working at this clinic, an enthusiastic pharmacist became the new owner. He focused on expanding services to include really detailed private consultations, home delivery, and personalized packaging. The dispensary got a facelift, fresh paint, new signage, new flooring, and a great new front entrance. There were fast food and sit-down restaurants nearby, plus a well-known bakery, a family-run institution right across the street. The methadone clinic saw patients every Wednesday, and unfortunately, our patients would gather in the dispensary parking lot, making it difficult for pharmacy patrons to park and gain access to the pharmacy. At times, altercation between our patients would break out, sometimes resulting in the police being called. This police presence added further to the business concerns of the dispensary. After several years, I felt the stress of this constant conflict between our patients and the dispensary patients and me just trying to get to work. It all ended one day when I had a chair thrown at me. I chose to seek employment elsewhere. I continued to work in Aurelia and recently drove by the downtown dispensary. It looks neglected. The paint is peeling, the attractive signage is gone, there are bars on the windows. I sat across the street for 20 minutes and I only saw one patron entering that dispensary. The bakery and the restaurants are all gone. Downtown Barrie is vital to our community for so many reasons. I understand the need of all individuals. I understand the convenience of having social services in the downtown core. However, I do not think that a vibrant downtown striving to attract patrons can coexist.
30-second warning.
These social services. Having these two needs coexist and both thrive is difficult. What is being done, what I would like to know, not know, but I would like to focus and ask what is being done to ensure that our downtown, the downtown that so much effort has been gone into making it vibrant and attractive, what is being done to safeguard it? Thank you.
Next speaker will be Barrie Mills. Barrie Mills, please approach the podium. Time starts when you start speaking.
Mr. Chairman, council members, my name is Barrie Mills. I have a residence not far from here, and I'm responding in relation to what has happened with the Busby Center in terms of congregating the unfortunates in a singular location. One of the challenges, and it was brought up earlier, that at the time when we had 6 or 7 churches handling and helping these folks, there was far less addiction, far less damages, and I don't understand why the city allows or is allowing these facilities to basically promote in a singular area. So what that ultimately does is to bring people together of the same unfortunate situation, and it doesn't give them an opportunity to expand their horizons, get the appropriate help they may need to become more advantageous. I have a house. I also have an apartment in the house, which is my retirement fund. And we see drug deals, we see fights, break-ins 2 times. My car was broken in last week. And with the girl mentioning brick was very, very persuasive too. And so it is an instance where I, that have lived here for 22 years, no longer feel safe to walk in my own street. I had a friend up from Toronto last week and we were in downtown, took her to lunch, and she was looking around. We've spent millions of dollars developing downtown, beautifying it, yet we do nothing to preserve it. Any developer, and I know there's a number of resorts that are trying to be built or condos that are trying to be built, yet as a developer, as a person going to buy a condo, who would want to buy a condo when they are seeing what they're seeing in our streets? It's and you're wondering why they're not being built. Good point was 5 points where they didn't meet the quota of 85% of pre-sales, and consequently that fell through. Others are thinking the same way. The way to invigorate downtown Barrie is to help diversify these folks into other areas where they will not necessarily be in the same environment, have access to the same drugs, and again, be put in a situation where they can improve on their current situation. We do pay taxes, and I don't think we're necessarily being treated properly. We're not, for me to feel concerned about walking to and from downtown makes no sense to me. So my suggestion would be to decentralize and support areas where it would allow people to, quote, be subjected to more normal circumstances, which would then maybe change their point of view and possibly get help and get away from drugs. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Linda Jeffrey. Linda Jeffrey, please approach the podium. Your time starts when you start speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and city members, council members. I have lived and my family has lived and owned property in the downtown core for 67 years. That's my sister. And as a teenager, I had a job on Dunlop Street as a working in a clothing store. I walked home alone after dark on a Friday night after work. Would any of you now allow your 16-year-old daughter to walk alone on Dunlop Street? I certainly would not. So the downtown area is no longer safe. And I feel that we all have the right to feel safe. I have tenants that live in the downtown area, and I will share with you some of the things that they are reporting to me. They have seen things like people defecating, fornicating, doing drugs on their property. Their properties are being broken into regularly. My property is being broken into regularly. People are breaking into garages. The back garage, they now use as a crack, that they smoke their crack pipes in the back garage. That, you know, we're lucky we haven't had a fire. One of the apartments was broken into while a tenant was there. God forbid, he was in the washroom, thank heavens. What would have happened had he happened to come out while the intruder was there in his bedroom, stealing things from his bedroom? It's not safe. We all have the right to feel safe. I'm a taxpayer. My tenants pay their rent. We all have the right to feel safe. They go to bed at night or, you know, even during the day, they have a baseball bat by their front door. Why? And what responsibility do I have to ensure safety for them? What responsibility do you have to ensure safety for my tenants? I have worked in the field. Well, no, I want to see another point first. My daughter-in-law chose to open, she's a little entrepreneur. She chose to open a business in the downtown area. She lovingly renovated a home to provide a safe environment for moms and babies. That's what she does. You know, she is a chiropractor and she serves the population, vulnerable population of new moms and children. She's been visited by the police and told, as my son said, told to put padlocks on the door, that each practitioner should be carrying a panic button, that there should be an alarm at each desk. Her customers, her patients, are saying to her that after dark, they would like someone to walk them to their car because they don't feel safe walking out to their car. What's happening here? What about their rights? I'm quite concerned, as we all should be. I have compassion for this population. I have worked in the field of mental health and addiction all my life. I understand concurrent disorders, and I also understand what is helpful. The gold standard of care is housing and case management, not temporary housing and not the Busby Center, who has so many people in one spot that they can't possibly serve all of those individuals. They are overwhelmed already. God forbid what will happen if the number of people that they serve are increased when already they can't manage the people that they have. So I'm concerned for me, I'm concerned for you, but most definitely I'm concerned for the individuals who are being served by Busby. When you bring people together, a very vulnerable population like this that is exposed to drug paraphernalia and other people who are using drugs, the prime location for a drug dealer. You know, there they all are in one place. Let's go get them. These individuals should be spaced around the city. They shouldn't all be in one location.
30-second warning plus 6 seconds for interruption.
All right, I'll wind up. I just wanted to say that right now I don't think that the Busby Center is managing. They have not initiated any contact with us as their neighbors. They individuals from the Busby obviously are laying around on people's front lawns. Why are they not even using their parking lot as a place for people to gather? All right, that's enough. Thank you.
Before we go on to the next speaker, Ms. Jeffrey, I wasn't counting you down. That was just for me because I gave you 6 extra seconds as I'm trying to keep the quorum of the meeting. If you're interrupted, which I'm sorry you were interrupted, Ms. Jeffrey, you will get extra time. Everybody's entitled to their time. So that was just for me. I wasn't trying to cut you off. In my defense, I wasn't trying to count you down. In my defense, I would have cut you off. So that said, I do want to state something, and I'm sorry, Ms. Conte, if you're still here. I didn't acknowledge the interruptions that you had when you spoke earlier. I think it's really cool, for lack of a better word, that we have young millennials willing to feel comfortable to present, as well as the Jeffrey sisters willing to share their story about what they've experienced in Barrie. And in order to ensure that to continue, we need to not interrupt people. So I'm going to say that no matter what the content being said is. So please be mindful of comments, because I will, I have a roughly idea where it's coming from, but in addition to, I'm just going to keep giving the deputant more time as appropriate. So the next speaker is Heather Sparks. Please approach the podium. Time starts when you start speaking.
Hi there. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I have lived in Barrie my whole life. I live downtown. I don't feel safe. I barricade myself in my house. We have found people in our front bush injecting needles into their genitalia. We have found Narcan at the side of our house. We have people peeking in our bedroom windows. Sorry, I have point forms. We found meth in our front gardens while we were cleaning up. We are asked constantly, not me, my husband is asked constantly for cigarettes, food, anything that they would like, the homeless people would like. They throw garbage on our front lawn. Right now we have an air fryer in our front walkway because why not? That's where it goes. They break into our vehicles. They sleep in our backyard. We witnessed a fist fight out front of the Busby Center on Saturday, and everybody just stood there and watched. It's not safe. It's not safe down here. When you ask them to please move along, they start fights with you. We've had packages out front of our house from Amazon stolen. We got married in February. Our boutonnieres were stolen out of our front lawn. What does anybody have to do with boutonnieres? Like, I don't know. And when we do call the police, you have to call numerous times in order for them to come. And in order for them to come, you have to tell them that they have a weapon, even if they don't. So I want to know what can be done. Like, how can we work together as a community to help people who don't have a place to live? Like, is there a building that we can
put together so that we can teach them how to live and teach them how to cook, teach them mechanics? Is there places that they can, that they can live? And if, like, I don't know, like, is there places that they can stay and as long as they're working, have a roof over their heads? I don't know what else we can do to help people so that they're not on the streets. But as of right now, it's not safe downtown. And I wouldn't walk downtown. I don't even want to walk my dog downtown because people approach you and he won't let anybody hurt me because that's just him. But thank you for letting me speak.
Next speaker is Peter Greenan. Please approach the podium. Your time starts when you start speaking. One clarification for members of the public that I'm going to do. Instead of saying 30-second warning, I take like a second and a half just saying that. I'm just going to say time. It doesn't mean you're done. You just mean, or I'm going to say warning. And you know it's 30 seconds. I think that's fair. And if there is time to be added, I'll say that. Otherwise, I'll just say warning. This is now your communication that it's a 30-second warning. You have the floor, Mr. Preenan.
I won't need that much time anyway. I don't have that much to say. I didn't really come prepared, but thank you for hearing me out. I moved into the downtown core here with my girlfriend about 10 years ago. And we had friends over. We used to barbecue. We leave our car doors open, the windows open, park on the street. Since then, we've had, things have changed in the past few years. We can't leave our cars open anymore. I come out, the car's rifled through, so we lock everything now. I come home from work, there's people in my backyard, there's people in the bushes, there's garbage around all the time. We've had our packages stolen. I have a video of a guy stealing my doorbell camera. The library, kind of got a little bit ahead of myself there. My girlfriend and I ended up, we liked the place, liked the area. We got engaged. Fast forward again, my girlfriend was down by the library, fiance, I'm sorry, talking to somebody down there and she got assaulted. She got a severe concussion, got into depression, alcoholism. We split up. Now I live there by myself. I come home and something's always gone missing, flowers, planters, all different things. Like I say, my window's been broken. Everything's changing. It's just like the town's just going for a ride. I don't know what to say. I don't have any solutions. I don't have any answers. I really didn't prepare myself. I just wanted to explain to you what I've seen in the last 10 years anyway. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
The next speaker is Richard Bryson. Richard Bryson, please approach the podium if you are here. Okay, perfect. I'm being told that he communicated he won't be here. Next speaker is Michael Spears. Michael Spears, please approach the podium. You have 5 minutes and your time starts when you begin speaking.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go off script here to begin. Just say that the way some of the people experiencing homelessness in our city have been described tonight is quite frankly disgusting. They're not panhandlers, they're not loiterers, they're not people that you should be afraid of. And we need to remember that there are our neighbors and there are friends. To describe this undemocratic motion and the ideology behind it as abhorrent would be an understatement. In fact, quite frankly, there's little to nothing here on these pages that will actually help end chronic homelessness. What it does do, though, is attack our neighbors and some of the most vulnerable people in our community. And it represents a failure to properly improve the material conditions affecting them. Capitalism sucks. We can see it every day. And there are too many people in our city suffering right now because of it. This motion does little to alleviate that suffering. In fact, I believe it was designed to put the perceived fears of some residents ahead of the very lives of others. That is dangerous, that is cruel, and that is not what our community is all about. But let's look at the specifics. So parts A and B are so abstract and generic, lacking a legitimate level of specificity, that we must conclude that they're only added to soften the edges of the motion and create the illusion that it was put together to actually help people. Any initiative and attached funding commitments must be made more robust with guaranteed funding numbers and a lot more specifics. We do need a lot of these services, I'll admit, including a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week cooling and warming center. I also believe that a strong show of support by council for the consumption and treatment services site, formerly known as the supervised consumption site, should be included, since more pressure is required to make the province stop dragging its feet and finally approve this badly needed service. Looking at part C, the first thing that jumps out is that it improperly labels the work of One Community Solutions as outreach. And I appreciate that that has been clarified a bit. Because frankly, taking pictures to pass along to police and telling people to move along is not outreach. If you want to see true outreach, look at what groups like Ryan's Hope do in this city on a nightly basis. This part of the motion also lacks a definition of the term successful. We can assume that the business community and those who serve their interests will likely determine what success means here. Part D and parts of Part E were those that were strongly criticized, rightly so, and widely condemned by people right across the country a few months ago when this motion first came out to council. It is class warfare, quite frankly, and demonstrates how people in our community are under attack. This is the law and order portion of the motion, but what is missing is justice. And justice means not criminalizing people or eliminating the ability of someone with very few options left to survive for another day or week or month. Justice is giving everyone in our society the housing, food, and resources they need. Now I know what you're all going to say here. How are we going to pay for it? Well, a 10% reduction in the police budget, equaling about $6 million, would be a very, very good start. And it would be a good way to start getting priorities right in this city. We need to move beyond a system of exploitation and move away from policies that strip people of their human dignity. Enough is enough. We are not going to tolerate a council that chooses to deny people's worth and refuses to treat everyone with the respect they deserve. Our community must be a place where everybody is safe and supported. It must be a place where everyone has access to the services they need. Can we update bylaw wording around panhandling and encampments? Definitely. We can make it clear that it's okay to help people in any way they need it. And in the absence of adequate housing or shelter services, we can make it clear that people should be left alone, supported and free to live their lives as they see fit. We need to also reiterate that it's government's responsibility, ultimately, to take care of all people of this city, not just those you deem worthy. Before I end, I just want to
Time
add
plus
a
7
little
seconds
bit.
for interruption.
Just want to add a little bit. I was really proud of my son this weekend. With no coaxing from me, he decided that he wanted to go downtown and give people experiencing homelessness some of the change that he's been collecting. I was very proud of him, and even more proud when he said that even if they make it illegal, he's still going to go down there and give money to people that need it. And I'm going to be right with him.
Russell Thai, you are the next speaker. I'm sorry about the last name. 5 minutes starts when you start speaking. Just to clarify on Mr. Spears on the +7, I just had 5 minutes to think about this. You don't control if you want claps or not. So that if it happens during the speech, it's I'm sure you appreciated it, but fair is fair. And that's why I added the 7 seconds. Mr. Thai, the floor is yours.
Alex, thank you, council. Welcome back. Nina, thanks for having me. I'm very grateful. Wow, 5 minutes. I feel like that's impossible for most people here that have devoted their entire everything to. But 5 minutes can also be like a terrifying lifetime for some as well. This council is firstly about homelessness, what we've been categorized as the most obvious issue. We like to summarize titles into most popular topics to gain attention. In my opinion, mental health and mental illness are two different things. What we clearly are seeing is suffering from fractured mental health, then to medication, into addiction, leading to amplified mental illness. The end product is hopelessness, aka homelessness, being and feeling left alone. I'm speaking on mental health today, so let's just be encouraging on all fronts. Mental health is the first health everyone should be exercising on a daily basis and as much as possible. Physical health and well-being are the rewards from being centered mentally. When we are smart, when we start feeling, the words a person is saying, we can better understand what they're saying and where it's coming from. A lot of individuals need our help here and around the world. People, children are being violently abused and dying. For me, everything was going good before COVID. The most traumatic time of my life happened during COVID and sent me falling. With the help of the most loving and caring angels that were there to save me, I started to climb to where I stand here today, and I'm so grateful. We are winning some battles by keeping people alive, but sadly, I know we're losing the war. And I am here with a simple plan. I was recently told just to leave someone alone. They weren't bothering anybody, they weren't breaking any laws. This person was in black, head to toe, hoodie, lying motionless, lying in the middle of the 5 points, 34 degrees in the middle of a heat advisory. So I stopped to get a response and see if this person needed EMS. I was hurt because the advocate instructing me to leave this person alone would have had them killed, or would have killed them by following that advice. Alone is what causes a significant improvement in mental condition developing into mental illness. Alone builds resentment and selflessness. Alone builds depression and suicide. Alone craves and accepts all forms of acknowledgement in this condition, even the bad. I cannot just leave people alone in my path. I do what I can as part of a community in crisis. My plan is this: if an individual is mentally ill, they should be under full-time supervision and care by the experts until the individual is better and thriving. Bottom line. We need to celebrate the success stories, the lives saved, and the lives lost to teach us. Let's get together and figure out a way where nobody gets left alone again. This means working together on all fronts, respecting the process, holding each other accountable, and celebrating the progress achieved. Working together and feeling each other's contributions and being grateful. Working together, we can all be a part of a historic solution. Let's never leave a sick person alone again. I want to just end with one of our war veterans' quotes: to encourage valorous hearts and to show them honorable examples. Thank you for having me today.
The next speaker is Melissa and Scott Black. Please approach the podium. You have 5 minutes. Are two of you speaking or just one today? Just me. Perfect. You have 5 minutes. Time starts when you start speaking.
I didn't really prepare a speech per se. I just wanted to share experiences that I have in this community, living here since 2007. I live over by Queen's Park, and I am the leader of our neighborhood watch. I'm not afraid to live in the city. I'm not. I believe everybody here has a right to live in the city in a peaceful manner. I don't believe that there should be people affected by drug use or violence or anything else like that. I understand that there are people with mental issues, mental health problems, and other sorts of problems that are affecting them economically, socially, etc. I was raised in a household of a single mother. I had 3 fathers myself, from very young to teenage years, etc. I understand physical abuse, mental abuse, that sort of thing. So I am very compassionate to those that have suffered it or are suffering it. That being said, there is still a level of tolerance that we as individuals must keep and present ourselves towards the public to prevent any further problems that we may, present to people. I am a mother of 4 myself now, and I do have concerns about the safety of the children in the parks. I have seen prostitution. I have seen prostitutes actually across the road from my house, and I call the cops. And there is a joke around my neighborhood where it is considered that they are the Barrie Police Service. When you do call, they take either their time or they never show up. And I understand that they may have other calls and that you may be put on queue, etc. But as a person, as a mother, that's really infuriating, especially when you see other people suffering with overdoses and violent acts. Last year, there was an elderly man who goes to the skate park down at Queen's Park, and he picks up empties. He was attacked by a person who was on crystal meth and was hit in the head with a hammer. If you think that is a heinous enough crime, what I find even more disturbing is that the individual who actually attacked this person has had 15 other violent offenses and was left out on the streets. It could have been anyone. It could have been my son. It could have been my neighbor's son. I would like the parks to be safe for the children. I would like the parks to be safe for the elderly. I would like the parks to be safe for everyone. That being said, I understand that this is not a, single incident. It happens everywhere. My brother is a paramedic in Vancouver. He deals with overdoses on a daily basis. It's gotten to the point now when they get a call for an overdose in Vancouver, those people get put to the back of the line. They go for the car accidents, the domestic violence, that sort of thing first before they put the overdoses. To me, that's a shame, and it shouldn't happen here. We should be putting people first that need the services. We have no rehab. We have a high school torn down for an SCS that's not even being built. We had the Busby Center put into the United Church on Toronto and Ross Street. It got torn down because of a plumbing issue. These are issues that are not going to go away with a silent approach or a lack of concern. These problems will just continue to escalate if nobody does anything about them. I believe everyone should have a home. I believe that everyone should have a safe space. I don't believe that people should shoot other people in a sense that, you shouldn't be able to live your life the way you want to. But I do believe that if it's affecting another person negatively, it needs to be dealt with. We also have problems in my neighborhood where people are breaking into cars, they're breaking into homes, they're breaking into garages, and it hasn't increased since the pandemic. And it's not even from people from Barrie.
Thank you, Ms. Black, for your presentation. Your time's up.
Thank you.
Aaron Newman, it is your turn. Come on up. 30 not 30 seconds. You don't have 30 seconds to speak. 5 minutes. I'm going to drink water once you start speaking. 5 minutes. The time starts when you start speaking.
All right, perfect. So I just wanted to address, so first off, I'm Aaron Newman. I am the Associate Executive Director at One Church Barrie, representing ministerial here in the community. So I just wanted to and also my background has been in social work. I've worked in social work for over a decade, working with a lot of the community, working within the shelter systems for numbers of years, working at John Howard Society, all sorts of different social service sectors. So I just wanted to bring up actually just a couple interesting points that I want to bring out here. So, and I really don't think I'm going to cover everything in the time, so I'm going to definitely just reduce it down. But when it comes to some of the things that I was noticing, like from the county, there were like reports and things like that that were going out But one of the things that I felt was an oversight, and I think it's a really large oversight, is that we actually haven't acknowledged and actually had the appreciation for other organizations that are outside of the general scope that we're used to working with inside our communities. Because unfortunately, I actually feel like within those reports, you actually are blindsided by missing the information that's actually critical, that actually is already taking place and has been concurrently existent. And so, we talk about KPIs, we talk about, quality, qualitative research, those and that sort of stuff. I get it. I've been a part of those kinds of reports as well too. And you mentioned about qualitative. Well, as a church organization, we actually understand very much so, if anything, about the qualitative, which is kind of interesting that we're hearing that kind of communication, but at the same time, not feeling like there's that communication and that collaboration. So I'm just kind of a little bit more concerned about how we're moving forward. Just to give a little brief context, I'm working with somebody just recently that came out of, sex trafficking, actually became completely, on a healthy side of that situation now, has a healthy form of autonomy in their life, actually started an organization that's going to be launched this November called, Your Love. And, there's other types of initiatives that I can mention here. There's a youth basketball initiative that just got started actually during COVID, where we're going to be looking at how we can provide free sports for people that don't have access to those sports, as well as just, everybody else in the community. So there's a plethora of things. And if you actually go back to the roots of a lot of different types of social initiatives, Youth Haven, which I've also worked at myself. I was a housing worker there for a number of years. But even in that organization, that was started by ladies that went to church that actually are facilitating a need for community. So my question is, why are we not acknowledging, you're talking about resource and money and all these kinds of things. Why have we not had a communication, a healthy dialogue with something like a fellowship? Because I can tell you right now that I understand, because I'm working from that angle now as well too. And I understand what these ministers, the ones that are actually running everything, what they're actually communicating to me, and they've had no communication. There's no dialogue that's been taking place. And I can tell you right now that there's actually a lot of solutions that are being worked on. And it's because we don't, like, if you look at that example of the Your Love, this is a person, and we're working with refugees and all sorts of people. Today, I was working with somebody, helping them to get a pardon through John Howard, who is a minister. They're working inside of a church organization that actually has a complete wraparound model that actually helps work with a lot of these people and help work with them on a lot of different things. So there's a lot of things that can be had, if you can just understand that you actually need to take a step out and actually have that form of dialogue and that communication. I just want to acknowledge, Alex Nuttall, who to be completely honest, has been one of the only forms of communication in the most recent times to be able to say, hey, what can you guys do to take a step forward? So I just want to let you guys know that if you want to have that dialogue, I'm going to leave my my email my business card in the communication. Anybody can access that, because I know you're providing those documents forward. But I do want you guys to know that if we have that healthy dialogue, I'm pretty sure you're going to have a lot more change that you can be had in your community. Can I just say one?
No,
one second?
sorry.
No,
your time is up. Thank you, Mr. Newman.
All right.
Thank you, crowd. You did my job for me.
Okay.
Thank you. So that's it. You can leave the card there on the table, and we'll make sure staff get it as appropriate. So just leave it.
Okay, perfect.
Right there,
and then that could be circulated. So I don't want anybody getting lost in communication. I want to make sure whoever needs to get in touch can actually get in touch with us.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Next speaker is Chris Gerard. 5 minutes. Time starts when you begin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. I have had the privilege of working downtown for 36 years and now the proud owner of a property downtown. What you guys are trying to do you're penciling just homelessness. All homeless people aren't bad. There's a bad element. It's called lawlessness. What we don't have in downtown Barrie, we used to have before COVID. We had a high efficiency action team. It was 4 officers dedicated to downtown. They walked the court day and night. They were there, they were seen, they interacted with the homeless, the storefront, the community. That disappeared with COVID. They've now brought back this little wee pilot project. The budget was already in place. It was approved by council. It's been in place. Where did that money go? Where did those officers go? Would be my first question for this council to find out. I'm on the downtown BIA. Again, I already served 16 years down here. We have a lovely downtown. We need to provide a safe place for everybody. One of my employees Thursday asked the lady to move out of our parking space that was injecting needles. We pick up 45 needles a week. It's part of my regular cleanup and my duty. I sweep in front of my building. I'm proud to be downtown. She went into work to come out to missing 2 windows, a $900 glass bill, which I have paid, not her, and she has not returned to work because she now feels unsafe to park in our own parking lot, which is 7 feet from my door. That's a lawless person. I don't care if they were homeless. They broke the law. The police were called. They arrived. 22 minutes later, the people that broke the window were identified by video across the street, sitting in Memorial Square. The officers told the poor girl, even if I charge them, they'll be back out today. They have no way to pay restitution, and the judge will do nothing. Therefore, see ya, and they left. That's not policing. Cut the budget, Alex, put it somewhere else. Police should police. If you do the crime, you do the time. Whether you're homeless, not homeless, they need to be dealt with. Not happening. It's not happening downtown. Police tell their own kids not to come downtown after dark. And you'll ask the police, they'll say, no, it doesn't happen. So let's get a safe injection site. Let's get a rehabilitation site so people that actually want help have somewhere to go. If we can do the housing, great. It was great during COVID because the government paid for them all to stay in a hotel. We never saw them. As soon as that ended, they're right back downtown. Some panhandle, some actually are good. I have a guy that comes every day, uses my washroom. He has a basic shower in my washroom, but he's polite, he's courteous, and he's respectful. That's all we want down here, is to be able to walk down the street and be respected. As for the policing issue, we need more officers, and not necessarily just to arrest everybody. It's a presence. If you have a presence of police, people follow the law. We've all driven up the 400 going to the cottage, and you see that fake OPP cruiser, and every one of us hits the brake. You know why? Because it's a cop. So do criminals. The public drugs that are being used in our downtown are simple. They're illegal. They're not legal drugs, they're illegal drugs. Why are charges not being laid? So increase policing, use special constables. They use them at the courthouse. Why not increase, double, triple the police force using people that want to become policemen as special constables? That's all available to us. I mean, the Busby Center, if they need a fence, build it. Have the taxpayers pay for it. Because if it makes the neighbors feel safe, then that's a step in the right direction for those neighbors. Because we're all just frustrated. But we do love our city. Everyone is passionate about everything they believe in. And I think as a city, if we can lend a hand, what's a fence going to cost? Need a donation? Come see me. I'm willing to help. Thanks.
Jennifer Van Gennep. 5 minutes. Time starts when you start speaking.
Good evening, Chair Morales and Mayor Nuttall and the rest of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I apologize in advance. I'm a little less prepared than usual, but I do have a couple notes here. I first want to note my appreciation that the meeting order was rearranged to allow CAO Prowse's presentation to happen first. We were coming and preparing to this meeting with actually very little new information since May, so I appreciate that was accommodated. I also want to note and appreciate the efforts made by county staff, city staff, and council towards addressing homelessness. However, through this project, it does feel like homelessness, when I look at CAO Prowse's memo, especially the way it's laid out in your memo, CAO Prowse, it feels like homelessness has been reduced to a checklist, and most of the tasks have been checked off as completed. And I'm left wondering who is better off and how it's being measured. Regarding warming, I understand that the RFP was for a portion. So I'm speaking about the RFP that the county put out for the warming center. I understand that the RFP was requesting proposals for a portion of $100,000 and was once again originally only for addressing things at only to be triggered when the temperature reached -15. And that probably, actually, I know that it impacted the proposals that were received. So I know that a daytime contract is being negotiated now, and I do hope that the expectation will be for 7 days a week for that. I just want that noted. Regarding what I call the bylaw fiasco of June, as the wording continues to be modernized, I will once again urge staff and council to take a human rights approach and lean on the Human Rights Commissioner more than you lean on other municipalities when you consider the wording. Regarding panhandling, I had a conversation this summer with Mayor Nuttall where I believe we agreed that professionalizing taking care of each other was not the kind of direction we wanted to see our community heading. But the bylaws and the panhandling education program seem to be predicated on the idea that we are willing to abandon each other. And I hope that the community response in June shows that we are not. I do not want to be dismissive of the experiences of my fellow Barrie residents who feel unsafe in our downtown. But I would like to counterbalance it with my own experience with myself and my children, both during the day and at night, walking myself to my car from restaurants, from the library, from meetings here at City Council, in shops and along the waterfront, playing softball in Queen's Park with my daughter without incident. We have enjoyed the downtown without incident. I'm not taking away from the experiences of others, but I think it's important to balance it with my own experience, which is that we have only had positive experiences in the downtown. I don't mean we never see people who are experiencing homelessness. We absolutely do. And it makes me uncomfortable because I don't like to see people suffering, but being uncomfortable is not the same as being unsafe. Finally, I can't pass up the opportunity to advocate for permanent supportive housing. Housing is an incredible stabilizer. Indwell, in the town of Simcoe, the service provider Indwell, was recently credited with turning around the downtown because they opened a new supportive housing building, 2 buildings actually, that housed 95 residents, and they had 100% housing retention. And the mayor credits that building, those 2 buildings, with turning things around in their downtown. And Redwood does this here. So I can say on behalf of Redwood, we are ready to work with you to create that housing here. At Redwood, we say that everyone deserves a safe, affordable, hopeful place to call home. And when that's the case, the entire community benefits. And I think a lot of what we're hearing here today goes away when we have permanent supportive housing. Thank you.
Next speaker is Stefan Ost. Please approach the podium. Apologies on the pronunciation. You have 5 minutes. It starts when you start speaking.
Good evening, Council. My name is Stefan Ost. I was born and raised here in Barrie. this beautiful city. I have an absolute amount of pride for the city that I grew up in. And I first want to thank you firsthand for identifying an issue, obviously, that's at hand. Whether we are in support of these measures or not in support, the fact that you guys have gathered together and assembled us as citizens of the city to address this has already been, I think, a huge step. The first step, and I guess in finding a solution, is identifying that there is an issue. And I think and we might even hear more tonight, that we have struck a nerve with the city. We have struck a nerve with the citizens, and so that there is an issue. So I first of all, want to commend that you've actually started the process, because issues and problems fester in the dark. So just the fact that you guys have brought this to light has been, I think, a great progress. On a personal note, again, I didn't really prepare much, but just wanted to say, on a personal note, driving off Bayfield Street each and every day, seeing people that are clearly in dire need, it breaks my heart. And $1 here and $1 there, from me, seems like only a drop in the bucket. But therefore, seeing you guys and your commitment to at least discussing this and gathering the droplets of us citizens in the city, I commend you for at least trying. And this is a global issue, so good luck.
Next speaker is Susan Eagle. Please approach the podium. You have 5 minutes. Time starts when you start speaking.
Thank you. My name is Susan Eagle, Chair Morales, Mayor Nuttall, and council members. Every day in this city, agencies, volunteers, faith groups, and people of goodwill reach out to lend a hand and offer help to people in our community who are vulnerable or in need. Why? Because it is what neighbors do. It is what kind-hearted people do. It is what people who attend churches and mosques and synagogues do. At some deep level, we understand that being a neighbor and caring for the whole community is the only way we can thrive together. Martin Luther King reminded people that we can either learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we shall perish as fools. It was with dismay that we heard that the City Council had voted unanimously to ban the use or distribution of tents, tarps, food, and grocery products in public spaces without a permit. To soften the blow, we were assured the city would spend $825,000 for each of 2 years to provide homeless supports. To date, we have only heard about one program currently being worked on, and thank you, there was more update tonight. But the program we did hear about has the target of moving unhoused people out of the city under the title of family reunification. I have nothing against family reunification if it is really the best solution for someone and is freely chosen. Several agencies in the city have been sensitively and responsibly working on that for some time. Are there other plans underway? The county RFP for a warming center this winter offered only $100,000 to be shared across 5 warming centers throughout the county. No warming center can provide space, staffing, food, and other supports for the winter months on an average of $20,000 per center. It is not surprising then to learn that given the deplorable inadequacy of funding, no agency in Barrie has applied to provide an overnight warming center this winter. I am pleased to hear that there is going to be some further negotiation and that perhaps there will be some proper funding provided so there can be an adequate warming center. Yesterday, we heard that between August 2022 and August 2023, the Busby Center provided shelter for 786 unique individuals. not counting the individuals supported through the outreach van. This number was persons sleeping in a bed at the shelter. It's a shelter that is only set up for a little over 50 people per night. Actually, a reduction since COVID, since the beginning of COVID when it was higher at 55. Only 50 people a night, but the number is 786 people who have needed shelter. So when I hear that there's a city or that churches have provided out of the cold program, I suspect there were fewer people who needed that kind of help. I would think that at a time like this, City Council would not be encouraging us to lose our neighborliness, but rather helping to lead the way. For me, the words of Jesus, insofar as you do it to the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you do it to me, resonates deeply. We make a choice when we look at the challenge of homelessness and lack of housing in our city. Do we target homelessness or do we target the homeless? Do we seek creative community solutions or do we blame the victims? I heard tonight about de-incentivizing panhandling. You realize that when you de-incentivize and take away that money from panhandlers, you're creating one more, even more desperate person. And thank you to the first person who spoke about all the needs in the community. That's lack of public washrooms. That's lack of supports for people who are homeless. I sincerely hope this city council will step up, renounce its prohibition against caring for neighbor, and use our taxpayers' money to help our most vulnerable neighbors in need with proper supports. Thank you.
Next speaker is Christine Naylor. Please approach the podium. You have 5 minutes. Time starts when you've started speaking.
Good evening. I'm Reverend Christine Naylor, and I'm the co-founder and director of Ryan's Hope. We are a nonprofit organization with a mission to advocate for and support people living with mental illness, substance use issues, and experiencing homelessness. For the past 2.5 years, we have provided direct support and outreach services to the most vulnerable residents of our community, those that are unsheltered and living outside. Through our Breakfast to Go program, our evening street outreach, and our Loads of Love free laundry program, we have daily contact with between 50 to 200 people who are living unsheltered in our community. Our organization is 100% volunteer run and community supported. We operate on a mutual aid model of neighbors helping neighbors, as we believe this is how we build community. We also believe this is how we challenge stigma and combat fear and ignorance. I hear often on social media and through this council even that residents are afraid to go downtown, can't enjoy the waterfront due to safety concerns caused by homeless people or people who use drugs. The claims that homeless people and people who use drugs are dangerous and unsafe are unfounded. There is a difference between being uncomfortable and being unsafe. For those that have the privilege of being housed and being able to afford food, those that have never been touched by having a family member who lives with mental illness or addictions, coming face to face with the realities of these issues may make them feel uncomfortable. And yes, it may take away from their enjoyment of an evening outing for dinner or coffee, but it cannot be allowed to take away the human rights of our most vulnerable residents in our community. Council has a responsibility to all the residents of Barrie, and that includes those that are unsheltered, those living in encampments, and living with mental illness and substance use issues. Council does not have the right to ignore their human rights and the human rights of the community members that have stepped up to respond to the failures of all levels of government by feeding, clothing, and sheltering our friends in whatever temporary means possible. I challenge the false narrative being spread in our community that our unhoused residents are dangerous to the general population and commit crimes against them. Thus, there is reason to fear them. In fact, the exact opposite is true. It has been statistically proven that those that are homeless or have mental illness are more likely to be victims of crime than to perpetrate them. We have heard on multiple cases of people leaving bars drunk downtown and deliberately targeting homeless people, harassing, robbing, and assaulting them, and vandalizing their property. We have had to give tents out over and over again to people who have had their tents repeatedly slashed by house members of our community. We have witnessed on several occasions at our breakfast program when we were serving at the Salvation Army parking lot, having friends have buckets of water poured on them from balcony in a neighboring building because people were sitting on the steps to eat their breakfast and a building resident did not like it. We watched as our friends calmly got up and moved away, not reacting because they were unfazed by this treatment. As volunteers, we were more upset and outraged than the people that this had happened to, because for them, it was common for them to be treated this way because they had been so accustomed to this dehumanizing behavior towards them. My whole family is actively involved in the work we do through Ryan's Hope, supporting our unhoused neighbors. This includes my two grandchildren who have done outreach with me and participated in our community events. Many of our volunteers also bring their children and grandchildren to volunteer with them, and we have many students who are fulfilling their community service hours with us. None of them have felt unsafe to participate, and all of them have enjoyed the experience. I have watched beautiful intergenerational friendships form between volunteers and the people we serve. Last summer, we participated in a community garden partnership with Trinity Anglican Church, and I watched unhoused residents tend to the gardens with seniors from our community. They shared gardening knowledge and life stories and watched friendships form. I feel council has a duty as elected leaders of our community to bring the community together, to dispel fear and stigma, not to feed into it and fuel it. There are many proactive steps council could be taking to address the shortage of affordable housing in our community that would cost less than these punitive measures and would have much more meaningful impact on our community. Mahatma Gandhi said, the truest measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. I ask council to consider, what kind of city are you trying to create? What do you want Barrie to be known for? Our inhumanity or the way we look out for each other? I would also like to ask council to consider the legal implications of enacting the proposed bylaws which violate the fundamental human rights but protected by the Ontario Human Rights Code, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and international human rights law. As an ordained multi-faith minister, I can tell you that all major religions share the same core common values: to love our neighbors, to care for our neighbors.
Thank you, Ms. Naylor. Your time is up. Thank you. I won't cut off applause after the debate. Angela Voss, please approach the podium if you wish to speak. You have 5 minutes. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Good evening, Barrie and Barrie City Council. I am of the earth with the given colonial name of Angela Voss. I am Jordan's life, and I am justifying our rights to defend against national stigma with learning initiatives and futuristic ethics. I'm an advocate for prisoners, the drug poisoning, and to all those who are growing against the challenges that our new society has created. Mental health is health, and it all matters. As a healthcare worker with many different hats, I worked in developmentally disabled, palliative care, foot care, brain injury, palliative care, paraplegic care, behavior management, nonviolent crisis intervention, and person-centered plans kept me safe. To my own private company within the community of Barrie. As a single mother who raised 2 children here in Barrie, and I had to bury my oldest, forever 26, Jordan. Today, I'm here to tell you that I object to your bylaws and see it as a violation of our human rights. Section 15 says that we all have rights and freedoms. Beyond that, it amplifies a stigma, a prejudice, a discrimination, and this creates hate, violence, crimes, and overall community disrespect. Because respect is modeled by what we show, and what we do. And by showing hate and disrespect for members of our community, we are allowing ourselves to be hated and disrespected. Just like the vicious dog on a chain. Is it the dog's fault that he is vicious, or is it yours for putting him on the chain? Or a wild dog that has to protect and hunt because he has no services and humanity wasn't kind. He will attack, he will bite, and he will fight. We do the same thing when we cage a person or make them survive in the wild. They don't turn out cute, cuddly, and loving because they wouldn't survive. So it's our behavior, as we know. We create a society in the divide where one feels superior over another that is unfounded. Because when you look at it, it would take a whole lot more strength to live within the city of Barrie with no home, no shelter, no food, and no way of doing laundry and living in survival mode every single day. There's a strength in the determination of survival, but yet in our society, we are confused because we act like having a home, a job, an address, and the ability to learn and thrive in a growing society is our strength. You're right. It is. You're gifted with a beautiful mind that allows you to grow with goals and achieve them without the desperation of your mind preventing you from stepping out of the survival mode and to the one-size-fits-all box that our society is trying to create for mental health. Your gifts were given to you to share for somebody's ability to put together a car engine and somebody's ability to garden, somebody's ability to raise livestock or hunt, somebody's ability to take care of your children or your old. That we share and we continue to grow our societies and seeding each other so that we can evolve in the dimensions of life that includes us all. Imagine a world where only some people have a car because they were the only ones to learn how to create it and fix them. They wouldn't share it with you, so you wouldn't be allowed to have that knowledge. Or how about those that could build a washing machine? Are those the only people that could have clean clothes because they didn't want to share the knowledge with and kept it with greed to themselves? But those people never had a car. And imagine somebody having an abundance of beef and knowing how to hunt, but not sharing it with the person or the car. Jesus was hungry. He was homeless, but yet we remember him with such authority in our lives because he shared his gift of love and humanity. God gave his child. He didn't give him bearing riches. He sent us lessons of love through survival and kindness. Thank you.
Will Ash P, last name initial P, please take the podium. You have 5 minutes. Time starts when you start speaking.
Right. I want to start off by saying I don't have all the answers, but throwing more hate at a problem that was created by hate and greed is not the answer. Treating it with love and support is the only way for us all to heal and be safe. I have to say, I cannot believe we're here doing this again. So much for changing the language, and we're not trying to make kindness illegal. I challenge each and every one of you to spend some time on the streets. Come out with us for outreach. Come out and help with breakfast. Meet the rest of the community you're paid to help and make things better for. The ones you've neglected and pushed to the side. The ones you try and hide away for tourists who come and destroy the waterfront. You sit here and make these laws not caring at all how they directly affect and harm the community, the real community of Barrie. It's on the streets, with neighbors helping neighbors, housed and unhoused, working together to heal and grow. How can you even think of passing a bylaw that makes it illegal to help people? Illegal to give out food to anyone in need? It's cruel and inhumane. Why would you even consider passing a bylaw that separates the community of Barrie? Seriously, why? Each of you need to take a nice, long look in the mirror and ask yourselves, Why you feel so threatened you need to make it illegal for people to help each other? Seriously, when you're alone, when you go home, ask yourselves, what happened to your humanity? Why would you be a part of something like this? Ask yourselves, what happened to make you all so heartless? Thanks.
Before I call the next speaker, Amy Polly, and you can start making your way to the podium. I'm going to have to ask members of committee to just for a motion to extend past 9 p.m. So you're not a member. Councillor Corser, thank you. So moved by Councillor Corser. Any questions or comments from members of committee? None. All those in favor, please indicate. In favor? I'll do it again for Deputy Mayor Thompson. Motion to extend past 9 p.m. for the remaining deputations. So it's on the floor by Councillor Corser. All those in favor, please indicate. Okay, it's unanimous. Amy, perfect. Amy, Polly, you have 5 minutes. Time starts when you start speaking.
Okay, hello. So I'm Amy. I've lived here all my life. Other people started by saying their experience with Barrie, so I'm going to start that way. I've been here since I was born, 1984. I work at Trinity here downtown. I have a vision, I'm sure you all do too, where we can all be together in a community. And that sounds really idealistic. I've been really moved tonight by the people who've experienced fear, and I'm really sorry for that. And I know our community at Trinity has experienced some of that too. And as a leader there, I want to keep them safe as well. But I also want to open up to the community. How do you do both is a tension that we experience on a regular basis. And we're trying to do our part, opening up, hosting the breakfast program. And I know like all we do is open up our doors. The good people, many of them are here, they actually do it. Provide a lot of that service. I talk to outreach workers. They need help to help others. And I know everybody has a heart and they do care. We can talk about emotions, I suppose, but there's some facts here. I'm a fact person too. It's interesting that the very first things that were done were the bylaws and the reunification. It just seems like you want to stop helping people or make them go away. I know the rest is really complicated. Building more homes would be great. The safe consumption site. Where is that? Where is that going? I don't know. I'm not a government person. I know you probably know a lot more. But I imagine it's somewhere in the province or and it's sitting on someone's desk. I have no idea how it works. But can someone talk to them from here? Can you all talk to them that we really do need it? I don't know how that works, but I know I can talk to people all the time. I don't know, are you not allowed in? I don't know, but what kind of will would that take? I know housing is hard to build. I know almost nothing about how to build housing, but I know some of our churches have offered for the city to help us to build it. We had a great, there was this conference held by the city. I forget what it was called, but it was great. And the county representatives were there. I don't know, there wasn't much of a follow-up from that. So I like your plans, they're great. can we do it in an order that is humane? So maybe having housing first, safe consumption first. And I always wonder, where are you going to send people when you kick them out of their tents? They just go, where do they go? But thank you. I know you're just people. And if we can help anyway, like the ministerial here, we're churches, I'm sure there's a lot of faith groups that we can all come together. So I'd appreciate more meetings like this. So quarterly meetings, that would be fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Polly. Yeah, we're all just people. And my apologies, I was late on the warning, but you saying that threw me off in a good way. So thank you for that. I was going to wait for this till the end of we only have 3 more. I was going to wait for this to the end, but I see people are leaving. A lot of people have touched on the housing thing. And Ms. Polly, we're doing a new zoning bylaw. It's essentially the document that says what you can build and what you can't build somewhere. It's the rules that are in place, very strict rules. If you or any other member wants to give comments about making it easier to build housing, or you want it to be harder to build housing in specific areas, new zoning bylaw at barrie.ca is where to send your comments, and buildingbarrie.ca is where you get those documents. So I'm just going to wait till the end, but I see a lot of people are leaving because of the time. So you have the information either way you want to express your opinion. The next speaker is Laura Phillip. Please approach the podium. 5 minutes. Your time starts when you start speaking. Do we have a Laura in the crowd? We do not. Going twice? Thrice? Okay, I'm going to the next speaker, Valerie Gerdizia. 5 minutes. Your time starts when you start speaking.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Morales. I'm Valerie Gerdisa, the CEO of CMHA Simcoe County Branch. I joined in March 2020, the first month of the pandemic. It's been a true privilege listening to the public voices and hearing all the different realities and multiple truths that exist within the city. I also appreciate hearing both from the county and the city officials related to the resolution, because it was unclear to me coming into the meeting today. I think it's important to just clarify a few things, though. First of all, we were never consulted related to the motion, which I find quite remarkable, as we serve over 8,000 individuals experiencing mental health, substance-related or gambling issues in Simcoe County, with nearly 5,000 of them being served here in Barrie. We also field over 14,000 calls a year for people in crisis here in Simcoe County. In terms of our budget, when you think of us serving 8,000 people, that's only $3,200 per individual per year, which is less than half the price of a one-day hospital stay. Affordable and supportive housing stands as a pivotal cornerstone of community safety and wellness. Through CMHA's homelessness initiative, a rent supplement program in partnership with the County of Simcoe and the province of Ontario, we offer secure and dignified housing for more than 300 individuals. We looked at some of the initiatives, and we too would have welcomed the opportunity for the City of Barrie to request increased funding for some of our proven initiatives. And we too do have conversations with Associate Minister Tabolo, but to hear it from the council would have been very powerful. So for example, I do want to appreciate all the council members that were here in 2022 and did approve the site selection for the consumption and treatment services site. But here we are 2 years later, and we are continuing to pay rent and having another office-based program using that site, where every single day my staff are harassed by local residents and catcalled and told they do not want to have them there. And they are actually just providing vocational services in another site within the City of Barrie. And I have requested openly for that to stop, and it's not. So when I listen to the conversations about civility, the problem exceeds mental illness or substance use related problems. There is something going on in society that we all have to take ownership for. One of the previous speakers talked about tolerance, and I thought about the opioid crisis, and only if we had not tolerated the corrupt pharmaceutical industry and the prescribers for 40 years, we would not be facing the societal problem we're in. It's our collective responsibility to care for people that were lied to and poisoned by people they trusted. I really do hope that you understand some of the solutions we think could happen. I've already mentioned the CTS. CMHA has a 10-year history of providing mobile crisis response team support. And yes, RVH is piloting another approach with the acute care side of the house, which we welcome to partner on. And we need to understand that we have opioid outreach counselors in the downtown core. We have the crisis support. We have brief service outreach counselors. We need to optimize everyone. We also have a release for custody program where we actually support people transferring from the Central North Correctional Center. We are so hoping that we get that permit approval for the new construction that we're actually hoping to initiate this month, if possible, to build upon our 6 beds, our long-standing crisis beds, and actually add 6 newly Ministry of Health funded Justice Safe beds, which will allow 12 emergent beds immediately available the minute we can break ground and actually do what would be considered pretty not substantive renovations. But right now we're stuck in bureaucratic processes, and we do hope that those permanent approvals are finally expedited. Our food security program called Urban Pantry, which provides food support to hundreds of families, including teaching cooking skills, gardening skills, etc. We had appealed to the City of Barrie's Finance and Corporate Services Committee for some temporary funding solutions, and that did not go through. But I am heartened to hear that we are now focusing on food security in some of the solutions. But I do worry that even with our good food box program, will we be in trouble to be actually distributing that pay it for program. In the end, I'm delighted to see us all here tonight and to start to listen to each other and to actually hear the different perspectives. But I do believe it's important that we continue to discuss ways to optimize community-based services and supports that already exist to avoid duplication.
Thank you, Ms. Giersa, for your time.
CMHA is fully committed to a safe and thriving city of Barrie.
And the next speaker is Elaine Garou. Again, my apologies on the pronunciation.
Chair Morales, Mayor Nuttall, and Council. Hello, my name is Elaine Garou. I guess you've forgotten your French lessons, Mr. Morales. And I'm a resident.
Guilty.
I'm a resident of Barrie since 2007. I'm also a member of Simcoe County Kairos. Simcoe County Kairos is affiliated with Kairos Canada, which is an ecumenical community of Canadians working together on justice issues. Our group in Barrie has been around since 2011. We have active members from a number of churches and church organizations, 2 United Churches, 2 Anglican churches, 2 Presbyterian churches, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Barrie, the Community of Christ, the Huronia Unitarian Fellowship, the Baha'is, and Development and Peace, the social justice arm of the Catholic Church in Canada. Since 2021, a number of our members have been involved in the Breakfast to Go program, first spearheaded by Christine Naylor, who went on to found Ryan's Hope. Member churches have taken on responsibility for serving breakfast to the unhoused and to those in need from Monday to Thursday since the spring of 2021. Volunteers for the Breakfast to Go program come face to face every day with the most vulnerable in our city. You don't have to be a member of a church to become a volunteer. It is a transforming experience to meet the people whose future we are deciding at in this meeting. Breakfast to Go programs are not the answer to end homelessness. but they're rendered necessary when our society, when our social safety net fails us as a community. But neither will the bylaws passed by the City Council on May 17th, 2023 solve homelessness. They will also apply a series of band-aids to a complex issue. For our city strategy to work, we need a few things that were missing from those bylaws. First, we need a serious review of the strategies that have worked in other jurisdictions. We're not the first ones to face this situation. Is there a link between the county's 10-point plan and the punitive aspects of these bylaws? Second, we need input from all community agencies. The woman who spoke before me said it so eloquently. Community safety means safety for the homeless too. They are part of the community. Where is the safe consumption site that would, research shows, address the core of the drug problem downtown? Thirdly, we need financial support from all levels of government. And I heard tonight that the county is working with provincial and federal governments to get that money. An opinion piece appeared in the Globe and Mail on July 23rd, outlining the strategy used to diminish homelessness in the 1990s in London, England. The strategy involved many institutions working in concert under a goal-driven leadership. I have a copy of the article that I'll leave on the desk here. I have been in conversation with my city councillor. I know that City Council intended to make a positive impact with those bylaws, but a serious solution will involve the engagement of many more people and resources. Thank you.
Laura Phillip. You have 5 minutes. Time begins when you start speaking.
Thank you for hearing us tonight. I have an interesting position and perspective on this issue. I am COO of McCown and Associates, a company that has retail property across Ontario. We have large holdings within the city of Barrie and have spent tens of millions of dollars in investing in those properties. However, I also have a passion. For 35 years, I've provided housing to people with serious mental illness through various programs. Through Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care's Home for Special Care program, which has recently become the CHO program, which is Community Homes for Opportunities. These are well-funded, well, not really well-funded, but they're funded, licensed, safe, secure housing with supports for people with serious mental illness. I also have homes within the County of Simcoe that are funded through their homelessness initiatives. For the last several years, there have been holds on our funding, which means if I lose a resident through attrition, there's no funding for a new resident to come in. Currently, 15 of my available beds that would house the very vulnerable, very much needed people sitting in hospital beds are sitting empty due to a lack of funding, a hold on funding. And I want to be clear what the funding is. The funding is only a portion. If a person is on a pension, it is a top up to a per diem. We have standards, we're inspected, we have workers come in, it's well supported. I love working with the County of Simcoe, they're forward thinking. However, funding is on hold. The only way I am able to sustain my businesses is through my capitalistic ventures that provide me the income that enables me to provide the housing that I do to the people I do. I do it well because I have the additional funds. Other homeowners have gotten out of providing this housing recently because they just can't make it go. We're forced with increased taxes, increased standards, high cost of food, high cost of utilities. They just can't make it go. When those beds go, they're not being replaced. What I'm hearing here is there's money going into other programs when we have existing programs. These are successful programs. My turnover is very low. I've had residents with me for 30 years.
So I just ask that when we're considering and looking at new programs, there are people that already have existing programs in place, successful programs. I'm extremely passionate about it. My heart breaks. I have an office in downtown Barrie and my fellow people left, so I'm going to be walking by myself. And it's not a matter of being uncomfortable. I'm not uncomfortable. I've bathed people that have come from out of the cold programs that have lived on the street. I've personally bathed them. I've fed them. I've sat in hospital beds while they pass away. I'm not uncomfortable, but I do feel unsafe. I do feel scared. I feel scared when I leave my office. Is there somebody around the corner? It's the reality. Nobody here is stigmatized. Well, society stigmatizes, but we don't want to stigmatize. We want to help. And there's a lot of people that have attended that have the financial ability to help, but they're being forced away from what gives them the ability to help. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience, and Ms. Phillips for your comments. To clerk's staff, do we have anybody who has requested since we began?
No, Chair Morales, we do not.
Thank you, Ms. MacArthur. We are all just human. That really stuck with me. All of the deputations did. Thank you, everybody, for your time. It's not easy to stay here till 9 p.m. and to have these conversations. So I do want to thank you for focusing on your ideas and your points and not focusing on the other person. I think this was an excellent meeting, and I do want to thank you guys for that because you made it possible. That is it on our agenda. We don't have any other items. So can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Motions to adjourn. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
That concludes the update from the community safety meeting. Thank you for watching.